The manifesto of the suspected CEO assassin Luigi Mangione has leaked. And boy, I gotta say, he is not a smart fella. I don't know if this guy is the actual assassin. They believe he is because they found stuff on him. But let's be real. If some crackpot leftist 3 days after the assassination decided that they wanted to be a martyr because they had nothing going for them, they could have entertained that possibility and, set this up to make it look like they were this guy. But it looks like they're saying he is. There's probably more information. And I got to say, despite all the people on the internet saying it's a psyop and it's not really him, this time it looks like it probably is, but we don't know. He's innocent until proven guilty. I can only say that his light 2-page manifesto, it's 262 words, has been leaked by some independent journalists, by an independent journalist, Ken Klippenstein, I believe his name is. And this dude is dumb. I'm sorry. I'm just going to say it. He outright says in the manifesto he can't articulate his argument. And it's just like, you're advocating for murder and you don't even know why? You can't even express your idea? Yikes, these people are dangerously stupid. All right, well, we're going to talk about that. And then we got a bunch of other stories surrounding this, of course. But I'm really excited to talk about the UFOs because apparently they got these crazy drones over New Jersey that have actually started to cause an escalating problem. Starting to pick up in the news cycle. So more and more people are wondering why there are high-tech, sophisticated drones flying over Jersey. Some people think it may just be U.S. military tech. But the United States has now released images of UFOs. I'm not kidding. From their, I believe it's called the Immaculate Constellation Program. So we're going to talk about all of that, my friends. But before we do, head over to boonieshq.com and pick up the Johnny Haynes Pro Model. Look at this. Gay frogs. We got 2 beautiful gay frogs. They're in love, and we love them for it. They're hanging out, having a glass of what appears to be some kind of pesticide, which perhaps contributed to the relationship. I don't know. Don't ask me. But this is about love, so don't you disparage them. You purchased that gay frog skateboard over at boonieshq.com. And I will also announce this, too. Go to timcast.com, click Join Us to become a member, and you'll be pleasantly surprised. Members now get an additional bonus. You'll get a discount on all Cast Brew coffee for life. That's right. If you become a Timcast member, in your welcome email, they'll give you a special code, and you can use that forever. Literally forever. You'll also get access to our members-only uncensored show, which comes up tonight, and access to our Discord server, where you can hang out with like-minded individuals, and there's a bunch of chat rooms. They're doing fun stuff, and you can go to castbrew.com and buy that coffee as a member at a discount. So smash that like button. Share the show with everyone you know. Joining us tonight to talk about this and so much more is Colonel Kurtz.
Hello, what's up?
Well, who you are? You're not actually the Colonel Kurtz.
I am.
You are.
Yes.
You stole the name.
Just got back from my 3rd tour in Nam.
No. Oh, yeah.
No.
So who are you? What do you do?
So my name is Kristen. I have been on the show before, actually, or the Culture War, and I talked about my time in academia as a lecturer of English. So got my PhD in English, spent many years in the academy, and started a YouTube channel, and started out covering mostly Me Too scams like the Johnny Depp hoax and the Marilyn Manson Me Too hoax, and expanded into some other stuff. I talk about politics at times, and of course, film.
Well, right on. Well, thanks for hanging out.
Thank you for having me here.
Ian's here.
I thought you said, of course, Phil, who we also have on the show, but you said film. Film, you said film.
I have a whole side channel where we talk about Phil. So.
Who doesn't talk about Phil Labonte? Ladies and gentlemen, Phil Labonte, lead singer of All That Remains, in the house. I'm going to intro Phil tonight. He's a great guy, super logical, really open-minded.
He's an anti-communist.
And counter-revolutionary, fun to go on long car rides with. Phil Labonte, ladies and gentlemen. Phil Labonte.
Ian Crossland, everyone. He's here. He is thinking about graphene per the norm. I am Phil Labonte, just like Ian said, anti-communist, counter-revolutionary, lead singer of All That Remains. Let's get started.
Here we go. We got the story from the Post-Millennial. Manifesto of United Healthcare CEO murder suspect released. So normally, I got to tell you, I actually don't like showing the pictures, the names, and the manifestos of these people who do these things, because that was what they're trying to do. This dude clearly was trying to get his name out there, get attention, and push this cause. So during the police transfer earlier, he was screaming leftist garbled nonsense about his lived experience. I am not exaggerating. We'll talk about it in a second. But considering the ubiquity of this guy's profile and what he represents, it's now it's not something you can ignore. In a lot of these circumstances, the media might say, like, hey, look, we don't want to give this person attention who's trying to get it. Everybody and their grandmother is trying to give this guy attention. The left is cheering for him. So I think it would be prudent to actually look at what his motivations are so we can rip them to shreds. Because if we don't, The left is sharing the manifesto. They're talking about wanting to have adult relations with him, and they're cheering for him, but the guy's a moron. Now, look, I completely disagree with, I don't know, like murdering a dad in cold blood in the middle of the street. I just think that's wrong. Forgive me. The left seems to be for it. But when you actually read the guy's manifesto, I was dumbfounded at how stupid he is. And again, I want to stress, I'm not saying that out of emotion. I am not saying that because I disagree with him and I think he's a bad guy. No, I think he's a bad guy and I think he's I disagree with his political views. But holy crap, his manifesto articulates nothing. He correlates things that don't make sense and then literally says, I can't articulate this. Other people will have to. And it's like, so you're a crazy moron. I think it's important people know this so we can mock these leftists who would cheer for someone this dumb. The Post-Millennial says, the alleged handwritten manifesto of the suspect in the assassination-style shooting of CEO Brian Thompson has been obtained and published by Ken Klippenstein. Luigi Mangione was arrested in Altoona, PA on Monday and was found with 3D-printed gun, ammunition, and fake IDs. Mangione, per Klippenstein, who also published the mugshot, said he wasn't working with anyone. The parasites had it coming. He references the American healthcare system comprised primarily of private insurance companies, saying that it is the most expensive in the world, but that American life expectancy is 42nd globally. This appears to be his reasoning for targeting the CEO, Brian Thompson. United Healthcare is the largest private insurer in the U.S. He was denied bail. It goes on to basically read like of the whole manifesto. I don't want to read the whole thing outright, just because. Well, I mean, maybe we should read. Well,
It's so short.
It's really short. Right. And I want to stress this. Normally, I don't want to be like, look at what he said. But I actually think we should read it because the guy's so dangerously stupid. He should be mocked and anybody who supports him should be laughed at. So he says, to the feds, I'll keep this short because I do respect what you do for our country. To save you a lengthy investigation, I state plainly I wasn't working with anyone. It was fairly trivial. Some elementary social engineering, basic CAD, a lot of patience. The spiral notebook, if President has some straggling notes and to-do lists, that's the ultimate gist of it. He says his tech is pretty much locked down, blah, blah, blah. He goes on to say the U.S. is the #1 most expensive healthcare system in the world, yet we rank roughly 42nd in life expectancy. Now, I want to pause there and just say that right there is where you're like, wow, he's really dumb. Those things don't correlate, okay? The issue with our life expectancy has a lot to do with everything RFK Jr. has been saying. When you go to a Chinese food restaurant, this is one example, okay? And you say, I would like Chinese food. Actually, how many of you guys watch Tulsa King? You watch Tulsa King? So you know that scene where Ming, I think his name was? He's like, I came here as a young child. He's Chinese. And he goes, I work in a Chinese food restaurant. I don't recognize it. Yeah. Deep fried chicken balls soaked in sugar syrup. This is what people eat on a regular basis. So the problem he's seeing is that America has a sick culture with mass-produced garbage food and chemicals, and then he blames our healthcare industry on it. Perhaps the reason the healthcare industry is so expensive because Americans are morbidly obese, sick, don't exercise, and eat garbage. So he doesn't understand that. And from that lack of understanding, because he's a really dumb guy, he killed somebody. Here's my favorite part. He says, but many have illuminated the corruption and greed, e.g. Rosenthal and Moore, decades ago, and the problems simply remain. It is not an issue of awareness at this point, but clearly power games at play. Let me read the sentence before his. Obviously, the problem is more complex, but I do not have space, and frankly, I do not pretend to be the most qualified person to lay out the full argument.
He's honest there, I guess.
So this is just, it sounds like the story of a dude who left his parents' house. They say he's Ivy League, he's valedictorian. I'm like, yeah, he's institutionalized. He spent all of his years in institutionalized learning facilities, got out, allegedly did a bunch of psychoactive drugs, and then said, you know what, I can't actually make the argument. I don't know, but someone has to do something, and then kills a random guy unrelated to whatever his problem is.
Well, I mean, there's a lot of talk about his back issues. So he got a back injury. He's alleged to have had a back injury, and
reportedly had it his whole life. It's a disorder where his lower spine was misaligned, causing a slipped disc.
Okay.
That's what they're reporting. And then the back injury story was that he was at a surf retreat, and after wiping out, it exacerbated this existing condition, leaving him bedridden for a week.
But so the
What's the grievance, though?
Exactly. The obvious logic, right, that you would think the back injury leads to him being unable to enjoy life. I heard that he can't go out with girls. He can't perform sexually. It's too painful for him to try and have intercourse. So he blames the health insurance company for a chronic back injury. And also the guy comes from means. He went to an extremely expensive school. Why is paying for, care such a problem?
That was it. He was an incel. And he literally was. Because of his lower back issue, he couldn't, I guess, and look, this is what the reports are saying, and it's a bunch of, hey, I know this guy, here's what happened. According to like Reddit posts and what they think in media, and these are rumors, maybe they're not true, according to roommates, his hips and lower back, he had a difficult time moving them without nerve pain. Anybody who's ever pinched a nerve knows you ain't moving if you've got a pinched nerve. And so because of this, apparently some guy said that he had talked to him directly. They were at a surf retreat. And Mangione said he was unable to be intimate with women because of the spinal issue.
That's the literal definition of incel.
Involuntary celibate.
Without any, like a lot of people sitting in their house eating too much pizza with zits and like, I can't get a woman. That's not really involuntary. That's you making choices that lead you to a place where they're not interested in you. But this guy literally apparently could not perform.
It seems like the underlying issue here is some great degree of mental illness, maybe exacerbated by, I know you mentioned psychedelics, but I just wonder too, what all was he taking either officially or unofficially for this back pain? And it just seems like a muddled mind.
So he had a book list of some sort. I forget what I think it's a
Goodreads, right?
Goodreads, yeah. And there was a bunch of books about psilocybin and other hallucinogens or psychoactive drugs or whatever,
right?
Which doesn't, that's not a good thing if you're depressed, which it's, again, this is all alleged to be, but if he's depressed because he has chronic massive back pain that inhibits that has degraded his quality of life considerably, taking, psilocybin or taking magic mushrooms probably isn't a great idea. But even still, to me, I'm still missing what the actual motivation to kill a health insurance, CEO is.
He read threads on Reddit. I'm not being funny. Like he read half-brained crackhead arguments on Reddit where he literally says, we have the most expensive healthcare, but we are 42nd in life expectancy. And it's like, listen, healthcare and life expectancy aren't necessarily the same thing. Getting a broken bone set isn't necessarily going to correlate directly to longevity, but he's not smart enough to understand that.
Well,
so he's reading stupid garbage on the internet.
Right.
This is akin to saying, leftists do this all the time. Did you know there are more empty homes than homeless people? Duh. And then the response in their minds is, we could literally put a homeless person in an empty house. Problem solved. And it's just like, you know what happens if you put a homeless person in an empty house? Hey, Jordan Neely was given housing. Did you know that? After Jordan Neely got arrested the 50th time or whatever it was, after the arrest for punching the 67-year-old woman in the face, reportedly, he got treatment and housing. And 2 weeks later, he skipped and left.
Mm-hmm.
So you can't just put them in houses. But this is what they do. They can't actually look at causation. They can't look at nuance. He just read something dumb on the internet and then decided to end someone's life.
And like if he was tripping, we were kind of talking before the show about if psychedelics are good or bad, just drugs in general and the whole conversation. Like you were saying, Phil, they're an enhancer. And from my experience, psychoactives enhance your mood. If your mood is terrible, they make it more terrible. And if it's good, they make it more good. So if this guy's seriously depressed and taking psychedelics, I can see him making crazy unattached associations and just out of anger and like grabbing at stupid
Yeah, it's
reasons.
like a disordered mind. It's like, it reminds me of, in A Beautiful Mind or something, and go in there and there's all this stuff on the wall. I don't know if we can read too much into this, but I do think, though, that the symbolism that it's taken on in our culture is interesting. And obviously, it's completely messed up that people are lionizing him as a hero. But I do think it points to an underlying frustration that a lot of people have with our healthcare system and how screwed up it is.
Yeah, but this is something that I talked about I mentioned last night. Like the frustration with our healthcare system is actually a frustration with the government and with the way that our healthcare is structured. More than, well, the system, yes, but it's not the companies that are at fault. Why should your health insurance or why should your health care be attached to a job? Why can't you go to a doctor and say, hey, I don't have a job that have my health insurance health insurance through a job. I just want to go ahead and pay you for this because I want this. I want this service provided. You can't really do that. Because prices are not attached to the purchaser doesn't actually see the prices because of the way that healthcare is. So it convolutes the market, and you don't have the same kind of competition that you do in other markets. And so this is a complex topic that's actually fairly nuanced when it comes down to it. But because the left is still kind of ascendant when it comes to narrative building, the left has convinced simple people that it's a simple idea. Healthcare is desirable and good, and because there are people that make profit off of healthcare or in any way, they're the evil ones when someone dies because they don't get the healthcare. And it's not that simple. And to say that it's that simple, it causes people that are, like Tim says, dumb to do things that are aggressive and acting out and violent, and it's just a bad deal. Anytime you allow the left to build the narrative around anything, it works in a very simple way. The people that don't get what they want are the oppressed. The people that have power are the oppressors, and the people that don't get what they want have the right to kill or steal from the people that do. That's it. It's the simple equation.
Let's jump to this next story from the New York Post, guys. Luigi Mangione, he's not a right-winger. He's not anti-woke. He's a leftist, okay? Accused CEO murderer Luigi Mangione grins at hearing to fight extradition to New York after screaming outburst on the way in. Well, let me play the video for you over here from ABC News, and you can hear him rant. And what he said is leftist-coded language. So there's another story, and I want to stress, where they're saying that a friend of his says he was anti-woke. No, spare me, dude. Listen.
And completely outdone and insult the intelligence of the American people and the lived experience.
Okay, so if you couldn't hear it, we have a transcription. They say it's completely out of touch and an insult to the intelligence of the American people and the lived experience. He likely wanted to say more after that, but lived experience is literal leftist-coded cult language.
That's the dead giveaway, yeah.
Okay, listen.
It's like saying my truth.
Yep.
So I read up there with that.
Lived experience is such an esoteric phrase that if you went to any mall in this country and walked to someone and said, define lived experience, they would go, huh? Like, you mean like life experience? What does that mean? But if you're in the cult, you know exactly what's being said, okay? That is not something, like, you have to be in the cult to
No
understand
right-winger
this.
is going to talk about lived experience.
Yeah,
No,
it'd
it's
be like,
normie.
true.
What is your life like is the way I would ask a question like that. But I think they're more, what that question means is your lived experiences. How do you perceive the way you're being treated by your surroundings? How do you feel, not necessarily wronged, but how do you feel, how do you feel you've been treated by your surroundings? It's different than like, what's your life like? Like, what is your life like? What's your lived experience?
Lived experience is how did you experience
It
the
privileges
events in your
their
life?
subjective experience. So
Yes.
it basically stops any kind of objective conversation of like, no, this is my lived experience.
You know, what's funny about this is this guy is like an Ivy Leaguer, right? And we're supposed to assume that he's a smart guy. And they're like, wow, he had the dream life. But I just want to express to people, back in the day when university was unattainable, when it was very difficult and you had to be wealthy and these are long-standing institutions, yeah, the smartest people got to go to them for the most part. Now, anyone who wants to take out massive 5-figure loans can go to them. Just because, you know, actually, what show was I watching? It was Tulsa King, I think. I just binged the whole thing. And I think he's talking to, Sylvester Stallone's talking to the kid, and he says, the point of a degree is so that you can prove to your boss that you'll sit down, shut up, and do as you're told for a long period of time. That's what a degree gets you. That's why they'll hire you.
It's like a finishing school in a way.
Yeah.
This guy, I bet, had really good ability to memorize information. Like, if he was this, I don't know that he's actually the killer. It's still alleged.
Seemingly uninterested in actually looking for the information.
Yeah, like he is like, I just can't put these things together, but these are the ideas I have learned. And if he was a methodical killer, the way he did it was very like planned and scripted and done.
He probably thought he was like igniting a spark. I've seen some people comparing him to the Robert Palmer idea, you know, from Fight Club, which, you know, I love that movie, but it's a silly comparison. But yeah, I don't know. He probably thought
Robert Paulson?
Robert Paulson, that's right. Yeah.
Robert
Don't be
Palmer's
smirched,
the
Fight Club.
musician.
Not among a bunch of millennial men.
Oh,
Wait,
no.
there's only
I'm gonna
two.
get stoned
right?
again.
So this guy, I think I would give him high intelligence, low wisdom if I have to make him a D&D character. Maybe.
I think you're wrong.
Well, he's able to memorize. If he's valedictorian, he's obviously got memorization capability. But
that's not
his
intelligence.
ability to associate ideas is lax.
Being able to memorize, like there are people who are developmentally disabled who can remember every moment of their life, and they couldn't drive a car.
Right. Yeah.
Actually, this is true too. There are some people who are not developmentally disabled, but there's a phenomenon where they have perfect recall, and it's considered to be some kind of a disability because it actually is difficult to navigate the present. So there are people you can go to them and say, September 17th, 2013, 5 a.m., and they will literally tell you exactly what they were doing.
Fascinating.
Yeah.
Fascinating.
Yeah, that sounds like an
they call them savants.
Right, they call
Idiot savant was like a term that they would use.
Yeah.
Like they were terrible at a lot of things, but very good at that one.
This guy doesn't seem smart in any respect.
Well, if he was valedictorian, he must have had memorization capability. And the way that murder was carried out was like very methodical. But then he's found with the IDs.
Yeah, not very smart.
That's not smart.
Unless, as some people are speculating, he was intending to get caught so that he could have these lived experience outbursts with the police.
Right. The way he screamed
And
lived
get the
experience, I was like, that's the guy. But
I actually
maybe
was
not.
thinking this. Why was he sitting in McDonald's with a backpack full of all this stuff, right? After the killing, there was a debate in the media as to whether or not it was a lover's tryst or related to ransomware or ideological. We don't know. And so if this dude, he's accused, he's not confirmed, but if he's ideologically driven, he's going, no, it should be obvious. It should be obvious why I did it. So he knew he had to get caught so that he could make sure the narrative was his political ideology.
I think that's true. Even if it was a subconscious, but I think so. I think that's literally he wanted this narrative to get pushed.
Well, didn't he live in? When was the last place that we know that he lived? I thought it was in Honolulu, right? So I mean, look, it's not easy to get to Hawaii. You need to get on a plane, and once the pictures got out, it was unlikely that he would be able to make it through an airport, considering he got ID'd in a McDonald's. So maybe he didn't have anywhere to go.
Did you see those pictures from McDonald's, though? He was wearing an orange beanie and a black poofy jacket. And I got to be honest, like, I see a bunch of people on X saying, how did anyone recognize him as the shooter? That's
eyebrows.
But he was wearing a brown beanie. He was wearing totally different clothes. And there's a photo of him from, like, decently close to him. And it's like, did someone walk up to him and snap a picture and call the cops?
I don't know. I'm always amazed in these situations when people in the common world, in the real world, identify these people, because even if I recognize someone or think I do, I'm still going to be like, I'm probably wrong. But there are people who they see someone and they're like, I think that's the guy. I don't know.
I will.
Go ahead.
I will add, a lot of people come up to me and say, you look like this guy, Tim Pool.
Yeah.
They don't just say, hey, I'm a big fan. They say, you look like this guy.
Yeah,
And
that
I'm
happened to me a couple weeks ago.
Right,
I was like,
that'd
you
be
look
me.
like that guy on Timcast. I'm like, well, I am that guy on
See,
Timcast.
I would just assume that I'm getting it wrong, right? And so it's interesting to me how some people actually are just so sure. I recognize that guy.
Maybe it's this simple. We didn't hear all of the stories where the tips failed, right?
True.
So for all we know, in like, Westchester, PA, somebody called the cops saying, I think I found the guy. And there's local cops not doing anything. And they say, we'll drive down and take a look. They drive up and they see some random guy and they go, that's just a random guy. If that happens 10,000 times, no one's going to hear about it. But the one time it does, they got him.
Yeah.
Right.
This guy has this stark face, too. He has got a really, really kind of a standout face. If he didn't want to get caught, he should have shaved his eyebrows, I guess, in retrospect.
I mean, the eyebrows were definitely a distinguishing feature on him, or a distinctive feature. I don't know. I mean, I don't know. I'm not the kind of person that sits there and like is looking around. Who's this guy? Who's that? Does that? Blah blah blah.
Right.
So I probably wouldn't have been like, yo, that's the dude, because again, thick eyebrows is real tough to be like, that's the guy,
I wonder why it is we found out this guy's literal life story. We know about every drug he's taken, every book he's read, his opinions on the Unabomber, and we've learned nothing of Trump's assassin.
Attempted assassin.
Right.
Failed assassin.
Sorry, failed assassin.
Talking about Thomas Crooks.
Nobody knows anything about him. He just showed up one day and slipped through like a oily snake, made it to the top of that building that nobody was on top of for some reason. And this guy, it's like within a couple of days, it's like we can tell you how many like zits he's had.
Yeah, this is like that underwater submersible implosion taking the world's attention by storm, where everyone's interested in finding this. What drugs has he
was
taken?
that guy Stockton Rush? Was that his name?
I don't know. The owner of the submersible? I don't know.
I mean, you don't really think that it's a conspiracy in this case, though, right? With this
No.
You think it's a yeah.
I mean,
But I understand the frustration that people feel about the way that the Trump assassination attempt just sort of slipped away. From
and Secret Service.
No. What I'm saying is, I'm not saying there's a conspiracy to cover anything up. I don't know. I certainly think the official narrative on the Trump assassination is complete nonsense.
Attempted assassination.
Sorry.
You must manifest that the attempt failed.
It failed. But there's a lot of people who are saying this is a psyop because when they first released the person of interest photos, I'm like, that's not the same guy. You look at the picture of the video of the assassination of the CEO. That was weird. The picture of the CEO. And it looks like a guy's a little heavier set, and he seems to have thinner eyebrows and appears to be older, but who knows?
Because the camera was above. I heard you say that, and it didn't make sense. He did look heavier, but it might have been the angle of the camera pointing
There's
down
two
at him.
different camera angles. And his jacket could be poofy because he's wearing a
that's
sweater.
true, too.
Who
Yeah,
knows?
he had a bunch of gear on him.
He could have had two jackets on because
Yeah, I
he
wouldn't
wanted to pull one off and throw it away.
Yeah.
I wouldn't read too much in that. Yeah. But
So that's why I'm saying, like, at the time, I thought when they said, here's a photo of a person of interest, everybody said, that's the shooter. And I'm like, oh, hold on there. This has happened before, where people rush to accuse a person of interest of being the shooter or the bomber. And I'm not going to name the specific instance, but 10 years ago, there was a very, very serious incident where the wrong person was ID'd, and it caused a lot of problems. And I'm like, a person of interest could be a guy they saw on camera, give him a high five. And they're like, how does that person know him? We want to talk to him.
right.
But everybody just said it was the shooter. Well, now they're saying it was, so.
You know, and I think you mentioned that the healthcare industry, the whole system is kind of busted up. Like the whole pharmaceutical industry, the food and drug, but the way that they'll create, toxic chemicals in the food supply that will then poison people, and then they feed them medicine, and they profit off of both arms. Like I don't think there's a silver bullet. I don't think that there is an immediate drastic solution like what this guy thought that ending, if this was the guy, killing a CEO is going to solve anything. That's why I support RFK in positions of power in the government, because I think it's we got into this in a long, slow way, and it's going to be a long, slow path out. I heard they're going to maybe ban Red 40 out of the
Red 3.
Red 3, one of the red azo dyes out of the food supply, which is like, hey man, that's a step.
Honestly,
Red
I
3.
think the fastest way to do it is to limit the government's ability, or to limit the government's involvement. If you put healthcare, not health insurance, but if you put care on the market, if they said that the hospitals and doctors, they have to put their prices, make their prices available for people to look at, and make it possible for you to go from one doctor to another doctor and try out, see, hey, this doctor will do the procedure I want for cheaper. Unless you're dealing with something that's really, really bad or like specialized, like cancer, when it comes to like, broken legs or broken bones, or if you need antibiotics because you got an infection, you got a cut that's infected or whatever. If you put that stuff on the market, you'll see the price of healthcare, that kind of healthcare, go down significantly, really, really, really fast.
That'd be
But
great.
the fact of the matter, and you should not need insurance because you broke a bone.
Well, I think one of the things that we could do a better job of really trying to foreground for people is just the sheer massive unnecessary amount of bureaucracy involved now. And, like, for instance, I know doctors who've been in the industry for decades, and they're counseling people, don't get into this industry because you're going to spend 90% of your time doing paperwork.
Yep.
90% of a doctor's time spent doing paperwork, and a lot of that is tied up with the government and government requirements. And so I think that these are things that should be foregrounded in any discussion. But
this is my exact point. And when it comes to the healthcare situation in the United States, this is probably where I am most libertarian, because it's not a market at all. There's no competition.
Right.
The insurance companies pay the doctors. The doctors put prices that are exorbitant because they can. You hear people talking about, $50 for 2 Tylenol when they were in, or whatever. Like, these kind of things should not be, they should not cost as much as they do. And if you had a market where there was competition, all of these things would drop significantly. I got LASIK in my eye, like lasers shot in my eyes, like 13 years ago in 2012. And it was very inexpensive considering the procedure then. And I imagine it's significantly less money now.
This is why people go to Mexico for healthcare.
100%.
That's nuts. Everybody I know, okay, not literally everybody. I have tons of friends who are just like, if you can take a ride down to Tijuana, you're going to get, like, I was talking to Luke about it. Luke was saying, like, they do, what do? They do this thing where to make the dental work heal faster, they will take your own blood, spin it to get the platelets, and then inject the platelets so that it heals real quick.
Is that PRP, platelet-rich plasma?
Something like that. And it's like things they don't do in the U.S., they do down there for like a fraction of the price. It's wild.
Yeah,
it's regulation. It's not that we can't do it. It's that they're over-regulating.
Yeah, it is. And I think the reason it's over-regulated is because they want to mitigate harm. They want to make sure that on the off chance of the 99 people that get the project, one of the people is going to be hurt. They're like, no, then you can't do the project. But like, when it comes to
I don't agree.
No. Well, why do you think it's overregulated?
I think it's more like the government comes up to the doctor and says, hey, maybe you give us a little piece of what you're doing and you come to us before you do it. And they're like, that's going to take me months. Well, we want a little taste.
It started because the government wanted to put controls on how much money people could be paid. So in response, companies started saying, well, we'll offer this benefit package. We'll pay for your health care. We'll pay for this. We'll pay for that. So there were when the government stepped in and said, you can't pay these people more than this because this job is only worth this much, et cetera. Then the companies had to come up with other ways to attract the best workers. So the way that they did it was they came up with benefit packages.
And people don't know this. I think everybody should know this. I, as an employer, cannot legally hire a janitor and pay him 6 figures.
You can't?
I cannot do it.
Is considered like tax fraud or something?
Yes, you are required to write out what the job position is, and the rate must be market. There's a range. And if you're overpaying, you're going to get audited. Yep. Now, depending on the size of the company.
Serious?
Yeah, people don't know this stuff. So I remember when we first started this company, I was like, hey, I want to buy my mom a house, like my mom deserves a house. And I have a successful show, and they said, well, you can't do that. I was like, what do you mean I can't? Why can't I? I was like, I got money now, right? I could buy a house, you take out a loan and, pay the down payment. I'm like, no. And they're like, no, that would be an illegal gift. Now, if you want to
family, how crazy.
Now, there are certain things you can file up to $15,000 this year. You can gift somebody and you don't need to do anything. Beyond that, you have to file for a gift for the year, and then there's taxes that have to be taken out of it. So you can transfer money, but that's huge taxes. I said, okay, so what if I what if I buy the house? Then what taxes? And they're like, okay, well then your mom would have to pay income tax on the house. So if the house costs $200,000, she owes 27%, and I'm buying. Can I pay that? And then there's this diminishing return where it's like, yes, you can pay the taxes, but it's still more income. So it's a diminishing. You have to basically overpay to stop it from happening. So there are ways you can do it, but it's overly complicated. So I was talking to him and I said, can I hire my mom for a job? And he goes, it has to be a real job. And I was like, yeah, she could do something. And he was like, if you pay anyone above market, they have to have a position with a job description. Wow. And it has to be, you have to be able to prove upon audit they do that job. Because understand, there are lots of wealthy people that would love to hire a family member for a ridiculous salary so they could funnel money to another company, to a family, to a friend, or whatever. And so that's why these laws exist. So let me just stress it one more time. Phil, 100% correct. We have a list of every employee here. Their job title is a legitimate title that is recognized by the government, and it has to fit the parameters of what people get paid. If we go above that, we risk getting audited and accused of trying to skip on taxes.
So this is why these CEOs will have salaries. I'm actually asking of meager means $600,000 a year, whatever.
And then what gets $83,000 a month.
And then his benefits are.
Yes, I believe Bezos gets $83,000.
That's kind of role of Hunter Biden.
His salary is $1 million a year.
Okay, that's like what Hunter was getting at Burisma, I think.
86?
$83,000 a month.
83.
don't want to mix him up with Hunter Biden's payments from Burisma.
But that's because I think it comes down to $1 million a year.
So then the benefits is where, and then companies get creative with benefits, and that's how they funnel wealth into their employment.
So one common practice is, okay, so this job is you're a software engineer, you make $120,000 a year. You can get paid more. You can say this person's getting 150, the market rate is 120. That's reasonable. And you can arguably say, well, this is the best engineer in the world. We're paying him double, and that's still technically reasonable. What they end up doing is they'll say, okay, we're going to hire you at 120 market rate. We're going to give you another 120 in CDs to be paid out half at this point, so it doesn't appear as income, and you'll pay taxes in the year after your contract expires. So they'll say a 3-year contract to complete the project. Once the project is over, you're going to have a CD that you can then cash out. So your taxes, so for that year, you'll receive capital gains income or whatever, and it will be taxed at a different rate. There's a whole bunch of ways powerful and wealthy individuals navigate the tax system that people don't understand. But I just want to say this one more time. The government doesn't let you give money to anybody you want. The government doesn't let you hire anybody you want. And so what Phil's saying is companies then say, okay, we'll pay for your health insurance. We'll pay. And now we've created this ridiculous system that's very weird. And it's like, break a bone, I hope you have a job. And it's like, no, hold on. You should be able to pay for it, so you probably need a job in the first place. But why is it that when you get hired, your employer has to give you health insurance? That's just the weirdest thing ever.
And it all started because of government intervention. The government shouldn't have, and the government has no right to do this, but a large part of the justification, just like Tim said, is because of taxes. It's because the government will say, well, you're doing this so that way you can evade taxes. So the income tax, which is, I mean, I find that to be terrible policy anyways. It is used to control people in ways that most people don't even think about. You know, it's the income tax is why the dollar has value, which we've talked about before. The fact that the income tax is required to be paid in U.S. dollars, that's what allowed them to take the backing of gold and silver away. It used to be the gold and silver backed the dollar, and that's what gave it value. But now, because of the income tax, they've created what they call modern monetary theory, where taxation is what gives the dollar value because there's always going to be a demand for dollars.
Here's another great comment from a healthy user. Tim's employees should be 1099 contracts so he can pay them whatever they want. Also illegal. That's called permalancing, and it's a very serious crime. You're not allowed to do that. And so when we talk to people, you know, I hear these comments on, I went to go work for, I got a contract offer from insert media company and they wanted to own everything I had. And I'm like, yeah, that's like a legal requirement. Like, blame the government for all of this. Stop blaming corporations for doing what the government is forcing them to do and start blaming the government. And then we can get Thomas Massey and Rand Paul. We can get Elon Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy, and they can start ripping to shreds the bureaucracy, firing people who shouldn't be there, and figure out why things are regulated in such ridiculous ways.
Yeah, I can see why you would want to protect. Okay, so a guy, he's like, I sell a product. I make $100 billion a year. I want to give 50 billion of it to my brother. And we'll just say that's his salary. I see why someone's got to be like, hold on there.
Why?
I don't know. I guess because it can be be abused.
A father works his hands to the bone. Literally, his fingertips are gone and it's just bone sticking out. And he's like, I am an old man and I have made $50 million so I can give to my children. And the government goes, no, we get half. First, we're going to tax it at 37%. You're going to pay on average. Look, if a wealthy person is playing their cards right with a tax lawyer and an accountant, then depending on where they're making their money, if it's income, it's going to be 37%. Then you got property taxes and everything else. If they're playing loopholes with capital gains, they can make a lot of money doing other things. But let's just say someone does physical labor to the point where they made $50 million. They get taxed at 37% on everything above, I think it's like 270 something thousand. No, it might be like 360 right now if he's married. And then after, so the majority of it is taxed at basically more than a third. Then when he dies, they take another half of that. Why can't someone just give their family member money having earned it if they if they
or
so
their
choose?
friend? Like, why does it have to stop at family? I mean,
So what they do is they either create limited liability corporations where they start a company with a family member and then say, I'm investing $1 billion into this company, of which my son is a 50% shareholder. Then so remember when Mark Zuckerberg announced he was giving away all his money, and everybody clapped and they were like, wow, he's giving away his money. So I could be wrong about this. You can fact check me.
I always think those pledges are crocs of.
Yeah, you give your money to a corporation, so you give away your money, and then it's basically protected
like
from
a trust.
Right,
That's what
a
trusts are. You put
Right.
money in a trust, and then later on it pays you back.
It is kind of
It'd be
wild.
like a family trust or something.
There are trusts out of Delaware where you basically don't pay any taxes, and so the argument is. I could be totally wrong about this because I don't do it, but I had talked to a tax lawyer and he's like, here's what you do. You get a specific kind of trust out of Delaware. It costs $5,000 a year to maintain with the state. All of your money goes into this trust, and the trust acts as the legal entity that does the financial dealings. A trust is not an entity that can be taxed. So if it makes capital gains, it doesn't get taxed itself. Then when you pull the money out, you get taxed on it, but it basically avoids double taxation, and it allows you to make capital gains without, in the immediate, the trust is just being replenished and you're getting wealthier.
Right. So there's loopholes. I think that there's a real disconnect between a lot of the underlying government causes of a lot of these frustrations and problems that people have and people's awareness of it. I mean, you were talking about Taylor Lorenz last night and her laughable comments. And I think that, there's so many people actually like her out there who have some vague sense that there's something wrong with our healthcare system. And it's just easier and more symbolically satisfying to blame it on the CEOs of insurance companies than to actually get into the muck of really dissecting what's going on here with this. A lot of it having to do with government interference and regulation.
Yeah, but I do think the government has a role, and that's the government being an arm of the people coming together socially and being like, we're going to ban certain products from sale in our country, like certain poisons that are very profitable and addictive to the human body, maybe like, I don't know, azo dyes in general. I don't know how addictive they are, but like petroleum-based food coloring apparently causes hypertension or can lead to hypertension in children and humans, which can cause inflammation. So like maybe we could ban that stuff, like RFK's.
When you look at the U.S. versus Europe, there's a joke among people who have ever traveled to Europe that you feel so much better after you've been away from this place and the food that we eat for a while. And that's because actually, if you go to Europe, a lot of the time you're getting food more or less sort of straight from the source, straight from the source, American Gangster reference there. But you are more or less, the fish was caught right over here or what have you. And over here, it's just, it seems like there's so many more processes.
That does exist if you're wealthy.
Right.
So for the average poor American, you're basically being forced to eat garbage. And I say forced lightly. You go to the grocery store, you make a choice, okay? And I was telling this story a couple weeks ago. Alice and I went to the grocery store, and I love getting little cottage cheeses. It's very healthy. It's keto friendly, they call it. And Allison grabbed a pack of this. I don't know what the company is. And I looked at the ingredients, and it's got a bunch of weird garbage in it. It's got emulsifiers and stuff. Daisy, which does the sour cream and the cottage cheese, their ingredients, it's like skim milk, cream, salt. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to buy that.
Right.
Yeah.
So for a lot of people, they're eating Kraft macaroni and cheese. They're eating these like off-the-shelf products with tartrazine and red dye 3 and those other things because it's cheap. They're not getting proper nutrition. They're not getting proper diets. They're getting morbidly obese. They're getting chronic illness. RFK Jr. is right.
And it sort of is an extrapolation of the lion diet that Michaela Peterson talks a lot about, which ultimately, from her, what she's explained it is, it's just all meat. Whatever a lion would eat, that's what she eats. And so it's like
Hyena.
Beef and like et cetera, and salt. But then what's really happening is it's an elimination diet. All the stuff you don't eat, all the stuff you've taken out of your diet.
Toxic stuff.
Yeah, I think that's what the government should be doing is providing a sort of elimination diet now for our populace.
But this is a big trend among millennials. Like soda consumption is massively down. And that's why there's these commercials popping up where it's the Coalition of Soda Drinks of America. Did you know that we have low sugar options? And then there's like a guy in a white lab coat and they like show all these things. And I'm like, I have here a Spindrift. They do not sponsor the show, but I will shout them out. Why? Ingredients: carbonated water, grapefruit juice, orange juice, lemon juice, hibiscus.
I love it so
That's
much.
awesome.
The pineapple. I'm like shooting myself in the foot with this. The pineapple Spindrift is so good, and I tell people that on stream, and then it sells out, and it's so frustrating because I get it on Amazon, and then it's like $6 for 12 of them or for 8 of them, and then they're sold out.
This is what soda should be.
But I want to spread the wealth.
It's got 4 carbs, 3 of it is sugars, and there's no sugar added. It's just sparkling water with a little fruit juice. I don't want to drink a bottle of syrup, okay? But there are a lot of people go to the store, they pick up a Coca-Cola, Pepsi, whatever it is, get their high fructose corn syrup. Maybe they can't afford the Spindrifts. I don't know.
Or they don't know they exist. I think a lot of people, it's still kind of...
We're going to make America healthy again.
Yeah, we are.
So help us. We will do it.
You gotta be careful with that
last
stuff
thing
on
we
your
do.
That stuff will rip your teeth up, though. I was drinking a lot of Spindrift that put holes in my enamel. I don't know if I can blame
Carbonation?
solely I think it's the carbonation
No,
itself.
it's the acid. But
Yeah.
soda will do worse.
Fruit juice has a lot of acid
Lemon
in
will
it.
do worse.
Oh, for sure. Soda's a million times. I mean, I don't know how
Right.
many times worse, but all that sugar.
You got a raspberry lime over there. Spindrift is the best. Okay.
It's so good. And you can add juice to it too, like a really good organic
So I go to
peach juice. I pour a little bit into my Spindrift.
I go to a restaurant. I say, give me a club soda with some lemon. That's what I drink. So when I saw Spindrift, which is basically a club soda with lemon, I'm like, then we got all the flavors now. I'm a big fan. Okay, not a sponsor or anything like that, but it's just a great product. Let's jump to this story from the Post Millennial. Trump team preps executive order to end birthright citizenship on day 1. Based. What say you, panel?
I think that if
Say based.
I have a feeling that it's going to go to the Supreme Court. I have a feeling there's going to be challenges, and then it's going to go to the Supreme Court, which is a good thing because then the Supreme Court can actually rule on whether or not there should be anchor babies or not. Because conceptually, I think most Americans, and I can't say everyone, but I think most Americans are against the idea of if you can get pregnant and then get to America when you're 9 months pregnant,
That's not cool.
no one's going to send you away because you're 9 months pregnant and, oh, look, the poor pregnant lady, have a baby, and then you can just stay because you got here. Like, that's a bad precedent to have.
Let me pull up the 14th Amendment so I can break this down for everybody, and the leftists can whinge. Section 1 of the 14th Amendment says all persons born or naturalized in the United States and subject to the jurisdiction thereof are citizens of the United States and the state wherein they reside. What does that sentence mean? Anybody? Want to take a crack at it? What was the intent of that sentence?
Well, I mean, it was to make sure that black slaves were considered.
They were literally saying, of the adult population in this country that was born here and subject to our jurisdiction, we hereby say you are citizens. That was the point of the 14th Amendment. It was not to say, at some point when a person from Germany shows up and has a baby, that baby under our jurisdiction will be a citizen. It seems like this was grossly misinterpreted. The whole thing is quite literally about the Civil War. Section 3, no person shall be a senator or representative of Congress having waged insurrection, blah, blah, blah. The validity of public debt by the U.S. authorized, incurred during payment of pensions and bounties and services suppressing insurrection. It's literally the Civil War. They're literally saying, hey, there's a 20-year-old black man who was born here, and we have jurisdiction over him. You're a citizen. That was it. It was the end of slavery. And it's turned into somehow that a Guatemalan family can illegally enter the country by crossing a border and then within a few months give birth, and that baby is now a permanent citizen. Think about how stupid that sounds. A woman from China flies at 8 months pregnant, 7 months, and stays on a 3-month visa, gives birth in the United States, flies home. That kid is raised for 30 years in China, but has U.S. citizenship the whole time. I don't think the
Clearly not was intended.
Now, I know the founding fathers didn't intend for people to be flying around on anything because they certainly didn't comprehend how that would happen. Maybe hot air balloons. They did have
Yeah,
those.
they did. Ben Franklin got it.
They had hot air balloons. And they used them for warfare. But the idea that someone from a foreign country would come here, have a kid, and then leave. I'm sorry, I got to clarify. Not the founding fathers, but the government at the time of the Civil War. They didn't intend for the British to come over, have kids, and be like, they're citizens now. And they can be
take
your
them back to
president.
Britain.
Right.
Yeah, that doesn't make sense. I think that they were also trying to grow the population for the first half of the country's existence, for the first 2/3 up until the
But they
middle
had
1900s.
like 7 kids, dude.
What? Who did?
Women be
People.
cranking out babies.
Oh, yeah, they did.
Look at the movie The Patriot with Mel Gibson. Best
Pumping
movie
them
of all
out.
time.
Yeah.
What did he have?
Baby,
9
baby,
kids?
baby.
He had a lot of
Yeah.
kids.
Work the farm, kid. Get to work.
Make babies.
Maybe one day you'll have a farm of your own. But so I think that this
people
was also,
liked sex back then too, so a lot.
they still do,
and that was the kids were before birth control. Kids were the result of sex.
Yeah. And I hear the Sabbath, the Jewish Sabbath, is a lot about impregnating your wife every Saturday. It's like put down the technology and have sex with your wife all day until she's pregnant, and then take 9 months off, and then as soon as she's had the kid, do it again.
I'm in no position to make.
I was told that by a hardcore Jewish person. So I don't know. Maybe they were more lax about having new citizens before when they wrote this thing. But the idea that a British person could come over here, sneak into the country. Well, they were ideally people weren't sneaking into the country, but have a kid, and then take them back to Britain, educate them with the British ideology, and then they're an American citizen is crazy. And I don't know why there's not a loophole in there for like, you got to live here for 10 years or something.
They just didn't anticipate. I just don't think they anticipated this entire like matrix of like travel, like he was saying, air travel, and also just the huge influx of immigration that we would end up having.
And they said, you can amend this Constitution. We're writing it for today, and you're supposed to change it over time when it makes sense for your community and your society. You have to change this thing. Right. It's not a static document.
It's a static document unless you because it is a stringent process to change it.
Yes, it's a static document that can be changed in its state. Its order of stasis can be.
Donald Trump will issue an executive order on day one. The ACLU will have a seizure and vomit on themselves and file a lawsuit. And then it will quickly go to the Supreme Court, as it is already a federal issue. And the Supreme Court will, I think they'll agree with Trump.
I mean, I hope so, because I do think that the idea of, anchor babies, someone just coming here and being like, oh, now me and my, because, I mean, you get the whole, you get like someone is born here, or you have a kid here, and then mom can stay to take care of the kid, and then because of that they can start chain migration. It's a ridiculous.
Look at what the left is saying. They're saying Trump's going to deport U.S. citizens, yet children, because their parents are leaving.
Leftists,
I say this, Donald Trump. Here's the proposal. The proposal is, we're not going to deport any U.S. citizens. That 3-year-old child can stay here as a ward of the state, or can go with their parents back home.
Yep. And then when they're 18, they can come back to the U.S. because they're
the left wants family separation. What can I say?
I don't have a problem with
Do you guys think that Trump is going to come through really hardcore with the immigration stuff?
I mean, if he's talking about doing it on day one.
Yeah.
That's a bold statement to say on day one he's going to do this stuff.
Yeah.
Because day one is 2 months.
Yep.
Not even. We're looking at a month and 10 days.
I can't wait to see what. I just want to see what happens. Like, I mean, I do have a preference, a policy preference that I want to see, but I really want to see like what happens when Donald Trump is actually the president again and is actually starting to influence policy, making executive orders and pressuring Congress to do things and pass legislation that he can sign.
If he was to do this executive order thing, what would that look like?
Well, I mean, he said it would. I don't know. I don't think that it's been fleshed out. But there are people, even if he didn't tell people on his staff that this was his intent before he said this on the show, as soon as they heard him say that, they're like, all right, well, we got to start writing. Because that's exactly what happened when he made an offhanded remark about silencers when there was a shooting used with a silencer. And he was like, someone said, don't you think these should be illegal? And he's like, well, we'll look into it. And people, even though he didn't actually specifically tell anyone, he said it in an interview, people heard that, people on his staff heard that, like, all right, we got to start coming up with some kind of framework for how that'll work, and et cetera, et cetera.
So this is like he's saying he's going to make an executive order that will override the Constitution?
No. He's saying he's going to issue an executive order that says the Constitution of the 14th Amendment must be enforced as it's written. That is to say, if you are born in this country and subject to its jurisdiction, you're a citizen. Guess what? If two people who are not of the United States come here and have a child, that child is not subject to its jurisdiction. It's subject to the jurisdiction of the citizenship of the families. Yep. Let's put it this way. If two people came here from China and gave birth to a child, and then the U.S. tried taking that child, saying it's ours, what do you think China's going to do?
Right.
They're going to be like, no, you're not.
Right.
But I think it's a. Oh, okay. It honestly is fairly simple. It'd be like Tim said, if they're subject to its jurisdiction, the words in these amendments matter. Like the idea that you can just interpret around the intent and purpose of an amendment, that's that's constructing law from the bench, and that's something that the judiciary is not supposed to do. The judiciary is not supposed to write law. At the most, they're supposed to interpret law, but they're definitely not supposed to create law.
I'm starting to see this, actually, the legitimacy of what you guys are talking about. That if people that are, I'm just going to reiterate what's been said, and people in the chat are like, he's so just doing that anyway. People come over here illegally. They're here illegally. They have a kid on the soil while they're illegally here. The kid isn't necessarily subject to the jurisdiction of the state.
Correct.
Because they were here born of illegal people that are here illegally.
Right. So, but why would a child be subject to our jurisdiction simply for being born here? Right. Let's say a family from Mexico visits the United States as tourists and they bring their 7-year-old kid. None of them are subject to our jurisdiction. We have certain jurisdiction where we can say we're deporting you, but they're subject to the jurisdiction of Mexico as Mexican nationals, and we have a treaty by which we respect them, and we allow them here on certain terms. So the argument they're making is that, but if you're in our jurisdiction, we can arrest you. And it's like, yes, but we can't imprison you because it creates an international crisis where that country then makes demands over their citizens who they have jurisdiction over.
A lot of times if someone from another country breaks the law, we'll arrest them and then just ship them out of here.
It's not our jurisdiction. You are here in our country, committed a crime, and we're sending you home.
What does it mean to be subject to the jurisdiction of? That's what I'm looking up right now.
The principal argument is that when this was written, it was referring to slaves of the United States who were born here and have no other country to call home. They were under the jurisdiction of the U.S. government, where slave patrols could capture them if they tried to escape. After the Civil War, they said, if you were born here and subject to our jurisdiction, you're a citizen.
Yeah, this says United States versus Wong Kim Ark 169 U.S. 649 in 1898. The Supreme Court wrote that subject to the jurisdiction would appear to have been to exclude by the fewest and fittest words besides children of members of the Indian tribes.
Children? Can you articulate that one more time?
So it's supposed to subject to the jurisdiction thereof kind of appears to have excluded children of members of Indian tribes.
So here's a super chat
in
from
the country, but they're not subject to the jurisdiction.
Amos Moses says, before the Indian Citizenship Act of 1924, Indians born in the U.S. were not citizens because they were not subject to the U.S. jurisdiction.
Yeah.
They had treaties. They have their own land. Still to this day, on native land, there are certain federal regulations based on treaties, but this is what actually created casinos. They were arguing that they were not to be regulated by the state, and the states were like, yeah, right. And they were like, try me, dude.
Mm-hmm. Technically, that's why you hear about the Cherokee Nation. They're considered a nation of their own. They're considered separate from the United States of America. And because of that, they're not subject to the jurisdiction. There are...
It's kind of wild, right? To imagine being like 1890 and you literally just walk into town and go, I'm a citizen. How would they know? What are they going to do? Mm-hmm. I mean, there's birthright and stuff. Would you be like, oh yeah, but I'm from California?
It was assumed everybody was a citizen if you were in America because it was hard to get here. Because, it was, the late 1800s. The ships took a long time to get across the ocean. So it wasn't impossible, but it was much harder than it is today where, if you have $1,000 or a couple $1,000, you can get across the ocean and get an escort all the way through South America up to the border.
There was still resentment, even 100 years ago or so of immigrants.
Sure.
But it was definitely, the accessibility now and the ease with which people can break these rules.
And they can get rid of their accent by watching American English TV from the age of 1.
Oh, dude, I knew a guy who lived in Turkey who learned English by watching Family Guy.
And then, because before they probably always would have an accent. If they came over on a boat, you'd know because they had a crazy Irish accent or something.
He talked like this.
So now that Trump...
I'm kidding, he didn't.
But we have, Trump has the White House and the Republicans have both houses and the Supreme Court is pretty stacked. So there should be no issue then, right? With him implementing...
Yeah, now Trump can arrest every single Democratic voter in the country and send them to Europe. Let's jump to the story for the nation. President Biden should issue a blanket pardon of undocumented immigrants. I'm not going to read his stupid argument. Basically, the nation is arguing that Biden should basically say all illegal immigrants are hereby pardoned for the crime of entering the country, and Trump can't deport you.
Well, you could still... I don't know the details of what's in this stupid piece by the nation, which is basically a communist rag. But the idea that just because you're pardoned doesn't mean that you become a citizen. So maybe the pardon will say, okay, you're not subject to punishment, but that doesn't mean we can't still wrap you up and send you back home. I don't understand why.
Yes.
Why it would mean that they're automatically naturalized.
Like you could pardon them for the crime of entering the country, but that doesn't mean that them being here isn't still a crime.
Well, not only that, but even if they say, okay, this isn't a crime, you being here, but you can say you aren't a citizen, so you need to go back to where you're from. We're not going to put you. We're not going to put you into the. You're not going to have to be punished for it. You're not going to have to go to jail or anything or pay any fines, but we can still remove you and send you home.
I'm just amazed at how tone deaf, how persistently tone deaf these kinds of writers, these kinds of articles are, to not be able to read the room better. I mean, the place that we're at as a nation now is, I think that immigration, undocumented illegal immigration, it has reached a level that almost everyone agrees it's a problem. I mean, this attitude is so outdated. And so it's just interesting after this election to see this still being promoted.
It was like 70% of Americans were comfortable with not just closing the border or building the wall or whatever. It was 70% of Americans were okay with rounding up illegals and sending them home.
And many more Latinos, for example, than the left evidently expected. And I'm from Texas, and I interact all the time with people from Latino heritage, and so many of them are fed up with undocumented illegal immigration themselves. So many of them voted Trump, and they say, really, it's insulting for people to assume that just because I'm from this particular heritage that I don't believe in doing things in a proper law-abiding way, or that and here's the thing too, a lot of people, once they make it to America, they want to shut the door behind them because they understand that if you let too many people in, then you're going to then it's not going to be the place that they were wanting to immigrate to in the first place.
Exactly.
Right?
And another thing that I just want to point out is like the idea that all Latinos are the same.
Right.
That is only acceptable to white people.
It's
right?
so
like
racist.
Racist people.
What?
Racist people.
Well, I mean,
Many of them happen to be white.
I'm not sure if it's intended to be racist, but it's definitely ignorant. If you tell a Puerto Rican and a Mexican, you guys are basically the same, right? They're gonna kill you. They're gonna berate you. They're gonna yell at you. They're gonna call you all kinds of names. They're gonna make fun of you. Like that is absolutely not true.
Right.
So the way that the left just throws everybody into a pot so that way they can use them as a tool against the right, and that's the only reason they do it.
Well, it's the same thing with voter ID and the idea that black people can't obtain identification. I mean, it's so or can't use the internet. It's so racist.
Yeah,
it's
the term
insane.
POC was such a racist person of color. Like your skin is a little different color. Let's put you in a box with a bunch of other people with similar
and say
skins
that
don't match
you
mine.
Don't know how to get ID. You're too stupid, or you're too non-savvy about basic internet technology and government procedures to get an ID. I mean, it's just so insulting.
How racist people can become in the attempt to be non-racist is like it's just
in the attempt to project non-racism. Yes, exactly.
Like, we're gonna hold up all these other people's skin colors abilities to do. It's just such a I don't know, man. Morgan Freeman had it right. Look, I'm a man, you're a man. That's how we defeat racism.
That's a liberal principle. That's the whole idea is to look at people as if they're people. But the left doesn't want to do that because, as I've said multiple times on this show, happy people don't revolt. So they use race as a way to make people think that they have something to be angry at other people about. They do what they can to incite racial grievance, and that's part of why race has been such a hot topic the past 10 to 15 years. It's because it's intentional, because the left uses that to get power. They use race as a way to get power.
And as many people have been pointing out over the past couple of weeks, like Aaron McIntyre is making this point, the Civil Rights Act was the first domino to fall over in what created racial grievance and identitarian grievance. And I don't think they're completely wrong. I don't know that I completely agree 100%, because I do believe that just because we say, hey, man, like, let's be reasonable. Don't tell someone they can't shop at your store because they're black or they're Mexican or whatever. We can set limits. But the end result basically turns into everybody will file lawsuits citing that precedent and simply saying, because of my insert immutable characteristic, I am protected and you can't do these things to me. So the Civil Rights Act has basically created the circumstance where everybody now wants to justify why they are an aggrieved class, a victim. So you end up with now gender identity. And the Supreme Court ruling that, yep, if you're trans, you're protected under the Civil Rights Act. And it's like, okay, well, now there's no line anymore because gender identity is not defined anywhere. So we know what it means to be white or not white for the most part. Because the law says race. So if a guy comes in and he's got, he might be white, he might be black, I don't know, maybe a parent or grandparent in there, and the guy says, you look like a person of a different race, so get out. Okay, well, you can't do that. But now what's happening with the gender identity stuff is they're basically saying, like, men can have beards and women can have beards, and men might wear dresses and women might wear suits. Therefore, anyone can be anything at any time, and they're gender fluid. Now that means basically everything is a protected class, no matter what. I think that may get overturned at the Supreme Court, depending on what happens with that latest ruling on gender ideology, but we'll see. But the argument being made by a lot of the post-liberals, these are people who were liberal, and now they're like, hey, wait a minute. The rules and the world that we put in place based on these ideas have resulted in rampant wokeness and grievances. What do you do to solve for it? I have no idea.
Well, you look at reality. I sounded like Dave Rubin there. You look like his accent. You look at it just plaintively, without presumption. Like having a large influx of foreigners illegally into your country can damage the stability of your country. I don't care about what race you are. I don't care about what color your skin was before you got here. I don't care about any of that. I more value the stability of our nation and our community. So if you look at it from the starting point of like, how do we stabilize the system, then I think pretty much like you were saying, 70% of the people are like, yeah, you can't just like barge through the border unaffiliated. Like you can't, it's too destabilizing for any country.
Yeah. Look, the idea of assimilation was something that was obvious and basically universal
and it
for
used
Americans.
To be celebrated. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, look at the early part of the 20th century, the people that came to America, the young people weren't allowed to speak the home country's language at home because they wanted to make sure the kids learned English and spoke English, and they all tried to become American. And nowadays, it is more valuable to try to not become an American and be aggrieved. It used to be, I want to become American so I can work hard and I can get ahead because I believe in America. And now it's, I want to get to America so I can get on some kind of assistance because they'll give it to me because I'm XYZ identity. And that is a terrible policy. It's going to bankrupt the country.
I blame the blasted World Economic Forum for trying to disempower the United States greatness and take control at these global liberal economic order banks.
I think that
seeding poison into the minds of the American youth and the global youth. I've had enough of it. We're immune now. And I'll keep going if you want me to.
It's like almost a non sequitur there.
I think that's funny. That's
yeah.
good.
Well, I think this whole idea of like, I don't want to assimilate, I don't care to assimilate, has been seeded in. Like, I remember when you'd go sign up for a website and always what country you're from, United States would be at the top. It was alphabetical, but except United States was at the top.
Notice that's
Now it's at the bottom because
because
it's
Sometimes it is, but I've also seen it coming back and getting put at the top
Why
again
am I
the last
scrolling
4 or
all the
5
way
years.
down of every single country in the world to
For
find
a while, I
US?
was like, why is it not alphabetical? Why do I get? And then it was gone, and I was like, wow, we really are the least worst country out there. And now it's back, and I'm like, good. I'm down for some American supremacy, but in a good way. The ideology.
All cultures are good.
Yeah.
Not militaristically. I mean, maybe we need some protective essence on the planet, but like, I'm talking about the cultural benevolence of like free speech and things like that.
I think Ian had this great rant where he said the U.S. military should go and bring constitutional republicanism to all countries of the planet, whether they want it or not.
Wait, the military?
You said that.
I'm not sure if I said military, did I? No, I wouldn't have said that.
You said that you thought it was good that the military was trying to bring democracy.
Hold on a second. You're making me sound like George Bush Jr. here.
Bro, you literally said this, and we were all shocked.
We pull up the tape, Serge.
And I can't remember. Like Elad was like, my man.
He would have said that if I did.
It was like Afghanistan, and you said we were bringing constitutional order that would guarantee free speech and certain rights to people around the world.
Damn, I don't think we can do it military. I don't think that imposing authority through through force is the way anymore because the internet, you see it, you see through it, but the cultural like awesomeness of the music and the television shows, the little kids that want to learn English from the age of 1, that want to be a movie star, they want to go to Hollywood, like that stuff I love.
So let's jump to this story. This is breaking. Nancy Mace was physically assaulted. This is the report that we're getting right now. We don't have a lot of details. Nick's order says Nancy Mace was physically assaulted by a pro-trans man at the Capitol tonight. Does that mean it's like a guy who supports transgender issues?
I bet anything that it was a trans. Well, wait, approach. Wait, it was.
Well, let me keep reading. It says the left is insanely violent. He says this has gone too far. Nancy Mace is sending these degenerates a message. Your trans violence and threats on my life will only make me double down. She has a tweet where she says, I was physically accosted tonight on Capitol grounds over my fight to protect women. Capitol Police have arrested him. All of the violence and threats proving our point. Women deserve to be safe. Your threats will not stop my fight for women. So she said him. And knowing her position on the issue, this means it was a biological man who identified as a man, but was in support of trans issues.
Oh, wow. A man that actually assaulted. That was
a leftist guy.
Yeah, I mean, which isn't a surprise. Leftists are, they're violent.
But here's my question for everybody here is, right now, Rudyard is at 2 of 1,000. Rudyard, What If Alt History says by April, 1,000 people will have died over with a political motivation domestically.
I hope he's wrong.
And I certainly hope he's wrong too, considering it's been a month since the election where he did predict Trump would win and then we would see 1,000 dead. 2 people have died thus far on politically motivated grounds. It's the CEO, of course, and then someone tried to kill Marjorie Taylor Greene and in the circumstance ended up killing an innocent woman. Now, I know a lot of people are going to say, whoa, what happened? I know. When I tell you the real story, you're going to say, okay. She was swatted and the bomb squad rushing to her home to save her life crashed, killing an innocent woman who was driving and got hit. So that's collateral damage of leftist terrorism. But I do believe it is fair to say that someone made an attempt on the life of Marjorie Taylor Greene. And as the police rushed to save her, the killing of this innocent woman is her getting caught in the crossfire. So 2 of 1,000. Do you think we will see 1,000 by April?
I don't think we will. I'm hoping that Rudyard is wrong. I also don't think that. I don't think I would bet a lot of money on it, but I would bet a little money that Rudyard is wrong. That we don't see 1,000.
I think I think that's crazy.
I wouldn't be surprised if we saw a handful more. But the 2 attempts on Donald Trump's life, the CEO guy, and that's this attack on Nancy Mace, which
Nancy Mace. So she has another tweet. She got hurt.
Did she actually get injured?
She has a knee brace and she has to ice her arm. She says it's not like serious, but that's an injury. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
it's pretty wild. That's crazy.
Look, and
wow.
I was just arguing with a leftist about right wing versus left wing terrorism and violence and stuff. The left. There is always an argument that people make that say that the right is more violent than the left. The right and there's always statistics and stuff that they use, and I find the arguments not compelling. The people that correlate the data, I feel like they're biased. The ramblings of a racist who kills people because they're racist, that's not really political. That's racial. That's racial hate isn't all I don't feel like it's political the same way that the person that attacked Nancy Mace is clearly political. And I mean I know that there are people that are going to say, "Oh, Phil, the data says," but there are extremely obvious and clear examples of leftist violence that are obviously leftist. All of the riots during the Summer of Love, when the guy attacked the congressional baseball game and shot Steve Scalise, the attacks on Rand Paul. Rand Paul's been attacked himself 3 or 4 different times. One time when he was just walking down the street in not the one at his house, but he was walking down the street in D.C. The shooters that were just trying to kill Trump, neither of them, I don't care what anyone says, they weren't Trump supporters. That's the most ridiculous thing that I've ever heard.
I do got to read a super chat here real quick. Sorry,
sure.
Go ahead.
Yeah.
So Joseph says it's 7, not 2. A woman killed her father. A woman killed herself and her kids. A woman killed her boyfriend because of the Trump election.
She killed her father. Yeah.
God, that's crazy. The guy that killed his family.
Is that what was that story?
So a guy killed his 2 kids and his wife
Over the election?
That allegedly that was the.
So actually, so it was more than 7.
Yeah. Hold on.
Wow. I mean, that's still. Rudyard thinks in the next 5 months.
1,000 is high though. That's
1,000 people. And a lot of people responded to me saying, "Dude, January 3rd, like the Congress comes in, January 6th, they Trump wins, then the inauguration."
Yep.
January 21st, Trump signs no birthright citizenship, begin the deportations. People are going to lose their minds.
46-year-old Minnesota man Anthony Nephew killed his ex-wife, ex-partner, and 2 sons.
But why?
Before taking his own life.
What was the reason?
Hold on one second. Duluth. Let's see. No, it says the motive behind the killings is unclear, and this is that's the AI, Braves AI. Let's see. Let me see what they.
Yeah, that woman in Seattle.
woman who killed her
Minnesota dad who ranted against Trump
yeah.
election, gunned down wife, ex-girlfriend, and 2 kids
Over
in
Trump
murder,
election, you
suicide. Man who ranted against Trump election, gunned down.
Well,
I'm still looking to see if I can
Right.
find actual.
This is the challenge, right? Because are we going to really play this game where it's like a guy who ranted at one point and then later for different reasons did a thing? Nah. The idea that Rudyard had that he was expressing was that the political tensions in this country would get so great that we would see people dying because of it. So a woman killing her father, yes. She said, quote, something about the election, she muttered. And it was on election day. I think she wanted the lights turned on or something. I can't remember what it was.
Right.
And then she snapped and just killed her dad.
Insane.
Yeah, so that one's like, I don't know. Man, I hope it's not the case. I hope Trump gets in. He won. It's a clean sweep. There's a popular mandate. I hope that he just gets the job done and they cry on the internet. And that's
I
about
do
it.
feel like the anti-Trump hysteria it really did peak, I think, in the last election, 2016, when Trump was elected. I feel like basically what's happened now up to this point is that people, even who didn't like Trump, they did realize that, okay, this guy, it turns out, is not Mussolini. He's not actually Hitler. He's not literally Hitler. And so I don't know. I just think, sorry, Matt, I mean, allergy attack tonight. I just think that people have wisened up to this by and large. The media have not. You're still going to have the left wing people freaking out on the media, but I think that most Americans, even on the left, have really wised up to the fact that Trump is not some terrifying figure.
Yeah, they got a taste of what it was like to have Joe Biden as president too, which was like, he's still, is he our president? It's so weird that old, I mean, I guess for the first year I get it, but even that was like, people saw like what they did with Kamala Harris. They're like, here's your candidate this year, ladies and gentlemen. Like, where's the primary? A lot of people were just like, you know what? Donald Trump was elected. Donald Trump served as president. He didn't go crazy. He said some stuff I didn't like, but
It wasn't.
I'm speaking for other people.
His
right
presidency was not the house of horrors that the left told us to expect. And so I think no matter what he does within reason in the next 4 years, I think people are just not going to freak out on that level. We're not going to see like the pink pussy hats and stuff like that. I just don't.
I was watching some old Apprentice videos. Those are pretty funny. Reminding myself who he is deep down in his heart. He's a great diplomat. That's the thing about him, his North Korean diplomacy, cooling tensions with North Korea, cooling tensions with Russia, cooling tensions with, I mean, the guy is just a super charismatic master diplomat. And that is a great upgrade from slowly Joe Biden,
Right.
who's just like falling over at the wheel, exhausted. I mean, good Lord. There wasn't another better option.
Well,
I'll take it.
and you mentioned, The Apprentice, and something that my husband is always saying is that people spent years before Trump got into politics. They spent years being introduced to him through the television. And so there's a basic comfort level that a lot of Americans have that the media might not have, but a lot of Americans have known Trump for a long time, and they're cool with him.
Anybody listening that, even if you don't have issues, if you do or don't have issues with Trump, go back and watch old clips of The Apprentice and Trump in the boardroom, because the dude is just, he's cool,
Right.
man. He's not evil. He's actually not evil. It turns out he's actually pretty good. He might actually be neutral, because he's like, look, sometimes the good people fail in business, and that's just the harsh reality of it.
Donald Trump, you're saying?
Yeah.
He's clearly lawful good.
You think he's a good? I think he's lawful neutral. I think he's lawful neutral. He strikes me as very articulate and cares a lot about the law and legal authority. But he's like
Yeah, he's like a paladin.
I think he's
Paladins are
chaotic
He's
good.
an instrument of divine retribution.
I don't know about that because
He's chaotic good, man. You can't
that's
tell what
true.
You think he's chaotic?
he's chaotic good. You can't tell what he's gonna do. He likes it that way. He uses that chaos to his advantage.
Hafifi.
That's why. Yeah, exactly.
That's like Robin Hood.
Exactly.
Robin Hood was chaotic good.
I think Robin. I'm not sure about
he could
that.
be neutral good as well.
Okay, guys. I'm gonna stop right there. Donald Trump is chaotic good. Here's the story from the Intelligencer. Here's the story from the Intelligencer. Jill Biden becomes involuntary model in Trump cologne ad.
Involuntary.
Look at this image.
Hey.
It's Jill Biden looking at Trump and smiling, and it says, "A fragrance your enemies can't resist."
I love that.
And Trump is selling the Fight perfume and cologne collection.
She loves him. She really loves him.
Look, people
This
that
is-
spend
come on.
time around Donald Trump can't help but be like, that guy's all right.
uber charisma.
So you said lawful neutral? Is that what you said?
yeah, I think he's lawful neutral.
He is certainly not neutral when he does things like this.
No.
He's
It's just
super
chaotic.
charismatic.
It's
is
chaotic
chaotic.
good. He's chaotic good.
Well, he loves to be loved. And
This is
Joe
chaotic.
didn't show up. She needed somebody there to talk to.
Whoa.
Hey,
The other guy's wife.
DJT's down to party, man.
Look, he's definitely. I think that the closest thing for Donald Trump is chaotic good. You can never tell what he's going to do. He genuinely wants good things in the end. He wants good things for America. He doesn't want war. He doesn't want to hurt people unless necessary, which is like, Soleimani he killed, but that was because, he had political justification for that. Whether you agree with it or not, the point is that he's not out there thinking, I'm just going to go and start wars to start wars. He's not a Dick Cheney. He's not looking to start wars so he can profit off wars. He makes way more money by having positive business dealings than he ever would by being
at
at
this.
war.
Look at this. I was thinking about buying some and giving them out for Christmas. I think it's a good idea.
Oh, Trump cologne.
I think it's a great idea.
Well, we got to at least get one.
There's perfume too.
Sample the
women's
smell.
perfume. Look at the perfume. So he didn't put himself standing tall on it on the women's bottle. It just says fight. But I'm like, dude, this is the best Christmas gift ever for your liberal family members.
We should have one on the table so everybody can get a whiff.
It's $200 though,
He
man.
knows how to sell it. Look at that. A golden
You can
Trump
smell
statue.
like Donald Trump.
Oh, he looks like Superman in that, like Clark Kent.
Limited edition numbered collectible cologne celebrates President Trump's historic victory. I gotta get some.
I
It
appreciate
arrived.
it.
Oh, it ships in March.
Oh man, back order.
I wanted to get this for Christmas.
They're probably like trying to keep up with demand because as soon as he started advertising,
You might be able to pull some strings and get a early.
Hey, they're probably not made yet.
Yeah, it's true. I got it, man. I have so much gratitude for this guy. Now, as time goes on and the amount of personal sacrifice he's put himself through. And at one point I was
totally
like, it's
true.
all ego, but he
Do you-
really cares, man.
And you remember when he got 2 scoops of ice cream, but everybody else got 1? Think about the kind of sacrifice someone like him would have to make. Normally he'd go for 4, but he chose to do only 2 scoops.
The big ask.
That was a funny thing where CNN made a segment where they were like, Trump gets 2 scoops, everyone else gets 1.
I tell you what, if I was the president, I would get 2 as well. And I bet you if someone said, hey, can I have another scoop, Donald Trump would say yes. I bet he wouldn't say no.
He'd just be like, why are you
Certainly
asking
not.
me? I don't know. The ice cream's over there. And they did that thing where they're like, his salt and pepper shakers were bigger than everyone else's. And I'm like, dude, I don't think Trump manages the salt and pepper shakers. These people are insane.
Yeah, that's true.
Like, anybody who's ever gotten catering, you're not going to be like, and make sure at my seat in the table, I have the big. They're going to be like, what?
Don
You don't
might
have those.
Don might
No,
have
he
done that.
doesn't.
It's like, make sure I have the biggest and the best salt and pepper shake.
Someone
just so
else,
absurd. They
someone
just-
else may have done that. Someone preparing it be like, give Don the big shake.
He hires people and he's like, always make sure that I get the biggest and the best of everything. Make sure.
2
I mean, he's
scoops for me.
he's definitely a showman. He's kind of less of a showman since he got into politics, and he's more about just getting
I don't know.
it
When he
done.
started, he was very much a showman.
Yeah.
Now I think he's just pissed.
And like really
He said
Been
that
through hell.
He said the J6 committee should be in jail. Yeah.
in the Doge,
He's all out of to give. I
he's
think.
like, good, Elon, Vivek, take over. We're slashing the
I
bureaucracy.
really hope that is a legit thing, that they do a good job with that, because I frankly am dubious that anyone has the guts to deal with our debt problem. I just don't know in a democracy if that is a solvable issue when the votes really depend on getting, an older demographic to support you and to support your party. And I just feel like any real solutions to the debt problem, it's going to have to involve cuts to Social Security, raising retirement age. I mean, won't it?
Yeah. This is an extremely unpopular truth. If you have a significant amount of growth annually, you can manage the debt that we have, but I don't think that fixes the problem. I think that there have to be cuts, or at the very least, there has to be a halt on spending while the country grows. So as long as whoever is in the position to make financial decisions for the country isn't talking about, cutting or preventing the increases, stopping the growth of the debt, stopping the growth of the deficit. If they're not talking about that, then they're not talking about fixing the problem. Right now, I just looked it up the other day. Right now, without changes, Social Security, Medicare go insolvent in 2033. That's 8 years. So, if you want to actually fix the problem, because all of the fear mongering that they're going to do about, hey, grandma's going to be thrown out of, she's not going to get the care she needs, and they're going to steal from grandma and blah, blah, blah.
Right.
All of that stuff doesn't matter, because it will be worse if the dollar becomes insolvent.
Right.
It'll be worse for them. It'll be worse for everybody in the country, first of all, and it'll be the most bad for the people that are most vulnerable. The poor people, the people that are old, they will suffer more from that, from the dollar becoming insolvent, than from anything else.
And we see that. By the way, I'm not crying over the debt. Just having an allergy attack, ill-timed. But
she's crying over.
So you scratched your eye earlier.
If there's anything to cry over when it comes to government stuff, it's the debt.
It is
no,
wrong.
I hope though. Like, I know Elon and Vivek, like they talk a great game, but I don't know if anyone has it in them to really address the debt problem in the way that it has to be. But maybe so.
I can.
Maybe
I know how to do it. You got to fix the energy. You got to fix our fuel economy. Basically, right now we're heavily reliant on carbon. We're too
Graphene.
Graphene's cool.
Graphene's carbon.
Graphene is carbon. Graphene's
down with
That's
graphene.
one material we can create. But what's happened is we've become plastic.
Gravity.
Carbon, it's legit. Like oil and coal are super legit, but we're heavily reliant on it. Too heavily reliant for our economy to thrive.
Geothermal,
So we need hydrogen fuel.
Nuclear.
And they figured out
geothermal
geo's legit, but it's not fuel. Nuclear is legit, but it's not fuel. Fuel is transportable, and hydrogen is transportable. So we can retrofit our methane pipes to transport hydrogen. And they figured out with this flash joule heating, where they electrify carbon and turn it into graphene. They give off hydrogen
I don't
as a
think
byproduct.
we're going to change a centuries long oil infrastructure soon.
But that's the actual, like, Elon and Vivek are great at slowing the bleed. They're slowing it down. But if we really want to push forward now that we've mitigated the detritus, we need a new fuel. It's hydrogen.
People are wondering what's up with Colonel Kurtz's eye. I sprayed her with the Trump perfume when she walked in, and she's having a reaction to it.
No, I told them I had I scratched my eye, and then I think I don't know if it's allergies or it's just kind
Probably
of making
dehydration. Do you want water?
I really am crying though. Over
I'll get you
the
some water. Water helps me.
I've got water here.
Got it?
Listen,
Never mind then.
the debt is something
crying
worth
over
crying
debt.
over. The debt is something you should cry
That's
over.
terrifying.
I'm like the Indian in the pollution commercial.
So once we make fuel
A
cheaper,
pollution commercial, like it was in favor of pollution.
No, remember,
Yeah. The guy throws a litter out the window, and then he looks, and then a tear
Right.
comes down. I just love the notion there that it was like, for the average American, the Native Americans cared substantially more about the land than you. That was the message. Like, you're insulting these people. It's like, you've stolen everything from them. Look what you're doing.
yeah, I was feel bad about what you've done.
Effective commercial.
I actually have a lot of hope and faith in the economy, because the other thing that's going to happen is the United States is going to adopt crypto as part of its portfolio, and then the people without crypto are going to be destitute. This is a potential future, and then there will be an income equality war or some sort of civil
You think
conflict.
that's going to happen, or
That's if we don't step on the gas literally and upgrade our fuel systems to integrate hydrogen. It's going to be a big economic split with the people that had crypto and the people that didn't, because the
Right.
U.S. dollar's insolvent. It can't. We can increase the value of our GDP by enhancing our fuel economy, by making new fuel sources that are cheaper to make. That will increase our GDP, which then makes 36 trillion actually only 10 trillion. It still says 36 on paper, but everything's 3 times cheaper. So that 36 trillion can buy you $120 trillion worth of stuff.
Or we just drill more oil.
We should be doing that because
Alaska.
you can turn the oil into graphene. You can reuse this. Even if you don't use it for fuel, the carbon in the oil, it's still super valuable. Plastics, all this transportable, and you can convert it into building materials. So yeah, we can really step it up. I think it all relies on the fuel, man.
I've heard they're making, I don't know, I haven't done any kind of actual digging, but I've heard they've made some really significant advances in battery technology.
Oh yeah, solid state batteries were a big deal a couple years ago that they had figured out how to do that, and that means they can be very, very small and have tons of energy.
They figured out how to use nuclear waste in diamond batteries. They'll encase it in diamond.
There was this thing I read about how it's like a tiny piece of radioactive material or whatever, and it just powers it forever.
Yeah, I think it causes like a vibration in the lattice of the crystal of the diamond, and then it causes like this slow energy pulse because it's constantly. I think it's might be piezoelectric because it's constantly like.
They've been talking about that for a while, where you would your cell phone would charge as you walked from the vibrations.
Mm-hmm.
And we talked about this before too with that flashlight that you would whack off.
Oh yeah,
You ever see those? It has the magnet in the middle. And so you go like this, and it sends the magnet back and forth through the copper coil, and then it charges the battery.
You could get a really big one too if you wanted it, probably.
Or you could get 2 of them.
You could definitely get 2.
Like a good time.
Yeah, it'd be really, really fun.
And guys, the people who make the clips of the show are like, guys, we've already memed these. We've already turned them into GIFs. There's no point in doing it again.
Not everything's about you guys.
Dude, battery tech is super promising because I think there's like huge leaps constantly.
Well, because I mean, if you can like double or triple the current battery storage capability for batteries and stuff, then you really make nuclear it makes nuclear almost a no-brainer because nuclear is super efficient. The actual nuclear waste, people think of like green sludge, but it's actual metal rods that are encased in concrete and metal. And if I understand correctly, there's never been any kind of problem with the nuclear waste material. It's not liquid. It's not like the green sludge that made the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. It's easy to store and it's easy to transport. There was a big car accident when they were transporting it, and there was no damage to the vessel that the nuclear waste is carried in. And again, people think of liquid that's going to ooze everywhere. They're metal rods, and they're encased in concrete and metal. So it's not like it isn't what people think it is. Nuclear's the way, man. Nuclear's the actual solution to our energy problems, especially if you get serious battery storage.
Is Elon a proponent of nuclear?
He's pro-nuclear, yeah. He thinks that solar is the be-all, end-all.
Solar?
Dude, solar is
he says solar. He thinks that, if I understand correctly, he thinks that that eventually we'll be able to get the efficiency of solar panels to like quadruple.
Who cares about solar panels? You point some mirrors at a vat of water, and it boils the water and spins a turbine.
Maybe.
And then we're done.
And the mirrors could be in orbit, and the vat could be on Earth. Like the orbital solar is really a lot.
But it's just easier to have an array of mirrors. So there was this viral post where someone flew over Vegas and they were like, "Yo, what is this?" And there's 2 towers with mirrors pointed at them, and all it is a gigantic vat of, I think it's salt water.
Molten salt. It's just salt. It's just molten salt.
In the thing?
Yeah, and it melts
sunlight
and it stays
hits
hot overnight. It boils water.
Right, and then it boils the water, and then the steam pressure as it's exiting is spinning a turbine, which
those things are massively productive energy-wise, but they're not transportable. But damn, they put out a lot of power.
We're going to go to Super Chats. So smash that like button, share the show with everyone you know, become a member over at timcast.com. But before we do, we got a sponsor. My friends, check out HomeTitleLock.com. You may have heard of this. It's a scam where they try and rip you off. And I was talking to Allison about it, and I was like, is this for real? And she was like, yeah. Actually, I think we've heard some stories of this had happened because people don't really check this stuff once the paperwork's filed. So we got something for you. You guys have heard about this? We just mentioned it. The FBI is calling this house stealing. It's real. It's becoming more common. People don't even think about checking their title to their home or investment properties. And it's exactly what scammers are counting on. So in today's economy, you got to stay vigilant and protect what may be your most valuable financial asset. And this is legit. This is how generational wealth is transferred. It's your home. So here's how it works. A scammer will file a quitclaim deed using your information, forging your signature, stamping it with a phony notary seal, filing it with the county. And just like that, your property isn't legally yours anymore. They're not interested in your home. They're after the equity. They'll take out loans using your property as collateral, then disappear, leaving you to deal with the financial and legal fallout. So I think this is pretty serious. I think you guys should take it serious. So check out Home Title Lock. They monitor your title 24/7. They alert you to any changes on your title, and they work fast to restore your title with no out-of-pocket costs if fraud does occur. So don't wait until it's too late. You can get a free 30-day trial, free title history report when you use the promo code TIM at HometitleLock.com, or use the link in the description below. That's HometitleLock.com, promo code TIM for 30 days of protection and a title report for free. So appreciate the sponsorship, and let's jump over to your super chats, my friends. Uh-oh. YouTube just froze on me.
Oh, no.
It always does this. YouTube is just... Anyway, here we go. We got Schlip. He says, people should be more hesitant about throwing Luigi under the bus. The trial hasn't happened yet, and we don't know for sure. The potential of government railroading someone to look like they're doing something is impossible. Remember Damien Eccles. I was thinking, too, when he said, you're insulting the American intelligence and lived experience, like, what if he's saying, I didn't do it?
Yeah. That's Lee Harvey Oswald
one
also
interpretation,
screamed
yeah.
something.
I mean,
Obviously.
I don't really think that's the case because he could have just screamed, it wasn't me.
Yeah, I'm a patsy.
Yeah, I'm being set up. You know?
That's what Lee Harvey Oswald said. He was like, I'm a patsy.
But what does he
Come on.
mean by it's an insult to the American intelligence? Like, what is? What are you talking about?
Yeah.
Maybe the healthcare system?
I guess.
You're right. You're right. Don't take it for granted the guy's innocent until he's proven guilty.
Okay, so J3TL4G says, the fact you think he's a leftist shows how out of touch you are. This show has become GOP slop, incapable of understanding nuance. You aren't tapped in. You, sir, are the exact thing you describe. Because we went into great detail about what it means to be left and right the other day, taking a holistic view of these terms. Notably that the traditional left and right descriptions, which arose in the French Revolution, don't apply to American politics. It makes no sense to say that Dave Rubin and Tim Pool are far right. Like, what does that really even mean? But they've been calling Joe Rogan far right, and the dude supports universal basic income, which doesn't really make sense unless you realize that right and left are references to political tribes. So when we are speaking in terms of what matters to the American people, leftist refers to coded language and that circles around particular ideologies and worldviews, and right does similarly in the direction. For someone to say lived experience, we call that coded. That means it's words only recognizable, or phrases typically recognizable to leftists. Hence, if you go to a regular person and ask them about their lived experience, they're going to say, what is that? But if you go to a leftist who's in the cult, they're going to be like, of course I can tell you about my lived experience. It's a specific thing referencing them.
Nah, it's a dead giveaway. Dead giveaway.
Yeah. You, sir, need to watch the show, perhaps, and you would be educated. But thank you for the super chat. I do appreciate it. All right.
Do you think maybe, let me just say, maybe there's some trace of a legit critique in what maybe he's trying to say, which is that do you think maybe he could say that we're shrugging off the concerns of most Americans about the healthcare system?
Yeah,
and
I think the issue is, I refer to this as a scaling problem. The way I describe it, if you have 100 if Apple gives out 100 promotional phones to 100 people, and 1% break, what happens? One guy goes on X and says, my phone's broken. And they go, sucks for you, I guess. What if they give it 100 million phones and 1%, the same margin of failure? Now you have 1 million people on X screaming, my phone is broken. And they're like, what is happening? So what we likely see with instances like insurance is you're only ever going to hear about the instances where the insurance company screws people over. And they do, don't get me wrong. But how many people go, oh, I can't believe it. Today I went to the doctor, and you're not going to believe this. My insurance covered everything, even things I didn't think that probably would cover it. They covered it. I called in to make sure everything was okay. They were very nice and polite. What a great company. Never happens. Because literally everyone in the country has to have health insurance, you will get 330 million people, and the margin. So in the scaling problem, the larger a system, the lower tolerance there is for failure. And that's what we're looking at with all major systems in this country. So I think, if you had 100 customers of a health insurance provider and 10% got into an argument, no one would care. Like, I swear, you have 100 people and 10% failure rate. The other 90 are going to be like, we should probably, I hope you guys get that sorted. It seems like something must have been a hiccup. That's the extent to which they'll, must be a hiccup. But if 10% of the country overnight couldn't get access to healthcare, it would be the apocalypse. People would be losing their minds. And that's big. Right. And so, yes, I understand pre-existing conditions should and must be covered. Sorry, insurance companies. But there's a big problem there in how we handle this because we don't want government overreach, right? But then the insurance companies would never cover someone who's got a pre-existing condition. That person just goes without health care. We got problems. You have to figure it out. Maybe we don't do insurance. Maybe it's pay as you go. I don't know. All right. What have we got? Britt Griffith, Mower Racing, says, getting ready for 2025 lawnmower racing season. Are you interested in re-wrapping the mower with the updated design? The current wrap was a success for the 2024 season. I had great conversation with lots of people. Let's follow up on that. We are, of course, sponsoring Cody Dennison in this next year, and he's got flames on the front now. And they said it was rooster wings, but sure. There's wings on the side and flames in the front.
Phoenix wings.
They're
Wings
chicken
of the
wings.
Phoenix.
And I'm very excited to announce that my new skateboard graphic will be coming out in a couple of weeks. And this is the 28th Amendment.
Have you showed that one yet?
I don't know if I've displayed it, but for those that don't know, the 28th Amendment, which I believe must be ratified, says chickens being necessary to the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep, bear, and breed chickens shall not be infringed. And you laughing. But I think Arizona just passed a law where they said cities can no longer ban chickens.
Ooh, what about roosters?
I think, yeah, like basically you can have roosters and chickens, fight about it. It is shockingly insane to me that there are many jurisdictions that outright say you can't have chickens. And it's like, look, I understand roosters because they be yelling. But chickens? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Chickens, they just go buck, buck, buck. They mind their own business.
They just stink.
I was just laughing because we're overrun with them where I live. In
Really?
Central
That sounds
Texas.
like paradise. So out by us, when you're driving down the road, chickens are literally running around, and you can see that you see them.
Oh, I love it.
We were driving, and a chicken ran across the road, and then I had to say it.
It's like
Why did that chicken cross the road?
It's like that in Hawaii too. There are wild chicken everywhere out there.
Oh, dude, it's amazing.
It's great.
Chickens are great.
Yeah,
Because not only can you eat them, but you can also eat their eggs.
and they'll eat insects.
I actually
They'll eat
think
the infestation.
chicken pad thai is like one of the greatest accomplishments of man. It is not only the young of the chicken, but the chicken itself mixed into it. So it's a particularly brutal. Would you consider that to be very metal, Phil? To eat its babies and itself.
It is when you eat yourself. There is a Cannibal Corpse record from like late 80s or very early 90s called "Eaten Back to Life," and the cover, the zombie is eating himself, and
No,
it is pretty metal.
I mean, like when we eat chicken pad thai, there's chicken and egg in it.
Yeah.
So we are taking their babies and their bodies and mashing it together.
Oh, that's more like the follow-up to Eaten Back to Life called Butchered at Birth, where there's zombies eating the babies.
Is that for real?
That's Butchered at Birth. Great
Well, to
record.
me.
Great record.
There's that subreddit, Nature is Metal, and it's just like,
Oh yeah.
there's like the golden eagle or whatever. It flies over and grabs the goat and then chucks him off the mountain, and you just watch the goat bounce, and then it goes down and eats it.
Yep.
It's kind of. You ever see a goat climb a wall?
Yes.
What?
Crazy. Dude, goats are legit.
That's crazy how they do that.
They're extremely social animals too. If you only have one goat, they'll be depressed and stuff. You have to have multiple goats. You can't have just one.
Are they
goat.
like inbred? Because their eyes are all crazy
No,
looking.
that's
like
just
that.
what goat
they're-
eyes look like.
That's evolution, not inbreeding. But there could be inbred goats, and I'm not sure that inbreeding has the same kind of negative effects with goats that it does with humans. But
They're not like a result of
no, their eyes are
breeding?
their square pupils are like that. That's evolution.
Okay.
All right, let's see what we got here. We'll grab some super chats. Okay, there we go. Oh man, YouTube's always screwing around.
That is so
Philosopher
weird.
Stone says, I just want to say that the weird furries are the vocal minority in the fandom. Most of us are just chill dudes who like SWAT cats too much. Perhaps furries could be the topic of a culture war episode one day. Just get like 3 furries in here to talk and defend their rights.
That would be hilarious.
I will host that if you want.
All right. We need some holiday episodes.
Yeah, if there are any furries out there that want to be on the culture war to explain,
But they got to be wearing the full suit, right?
yeah, and you have to be fully clothed. It has to be YouTube friendly, weirdos.
All right. What do we got here? X Tin Man says, my theory is the drones are military and government, perhaps searching for something radiological, chemical snuck in the country, maybe a credible threat.
Yeah, we didn't talk about that drones.
Well, let's do that in the members only because they have pictures of UFOs. Like the government actually released images of like weird vehicles. They can't.
That's cool.
Yeah, it's creepy. One looks like a jack. You never play jacks where you put them on the ground? Yeah. Weird.
Sweet.
Yeah, very crazy. Let's go. What do we have here? Salty says, I've got to say that it pisses me off that I'm expected to relate to Neely just because he's black. No, I have more in common with Penny. We swore the same oath, served in the same branch, and aren't a menace to society. Isn't it insane that they're trying to scream to you that you have to have race as your commonality instead of the human experience and your beliefs and your passions? Did you guys see that woman screaming, white people stay out of our neighborhoods or whatever?
Yep.
It's like, okay, you're like, I don't want to go in your neighborhood anyway, I guess.
I mean, that's like illegal. if you're like, oh, white people, you can't live here, that's illegal. So, I mean, I don't know. It's silly to continue like constantly say, oh, it's white people's fault that this guy was on the subway harassing people and scaring people.
Wait. Was the arresting officer really named Fry?
I don't know.
Can someone Google that?
Someone
super chatted anti-capitalist arrested at McDonald's by Officer Fry. Frye. I don't believe it. You're joshing, aren't you? What is
Officer Fry McDonald's? That's funny. It'd be the new McDonald's character.
No.
Officer Fry. Officer Tyler Fry.
Is that it?
Yeah.
That was the arresting officer.
Apparently, yeah. Tyler Fry, a rookie cop.
We live in a simulation
department.
This is a simulation run by a 7-year-old.
Tyler Fry. He's like, well, my number has been called.
What if we're in a simulation run by Elon?
And he made himself a character.
He's playing close to the vest.
He's playing a video game.
He's like, I'm giving myself God mode. I'm making my character rich.
Everybody knows when you play a video game in God mode, it's not fun.
Yeah. He
get
seems
bored.
to be having fun, so he must have earned it. He's like, I'm starting with nothing. I'm starting in
no,
South
I don't know.
Africa. I'm making
He's like, I
myself
want to
South
start the
Africa.
game with $1 billion.
With political aspirations, but he's not American, so he can't be president.
All right, Fungus Among Us says, Luigi's Manifesto reads like a fiction. He claims that he had basic CAD skills, but the Glock frame he printed, he didn't design. It's a well-known design by Chairman Wan. I don't believe he wrote it. Well, no, I think he is like, I didn't have any particular skills. Like, if you understand basic CAD, like some people don't even know what CAD is, okay? So he downloaded a design, and that was it.
I'm not even sure that it was. So the picture that I saw, I'm not sure that was even printed. It looked like one of the old Polymer 30s, which were
Claiming it was printed.
Yeah, I mean that's what I hear as well. But it looks like one of the old Polymer 30s, which was you could build it at home. It was just the lower receiver, which is not serialized, so you could sell them, and there's technically not a gun. And you would put it together at home, but it's made of the same. You know, it is polymer, but it's not actually printed. It's just that you bought it on the open market.
Jacob Hawley says, my God, every single subreddit is going nuts with the guy being caught. They're calling for cleansing their enemies and ending all capitalists and calling for open revolution. Insane. You know, it'd be funny if just like Reddit is all CAA bots just talking to each other.
Yeah. Look, man,
That's just the only real one.
Don't call for revolution. You probably haven't run more than 100 yards in your whole life, and you're probably gonna die.
Oh man, that's why it's so funny. Like these leftists celebrating for it, and I'm like, okay, there's basic math. On average, conservatives are going to have more knowledge of what they can eat outside and how to warm themselves than someone who lives in the city, and they're likely on well water. If society collapses, the urban individuals who rely on this big water infrastructure in their city, they're done, because your water stops overnight. And then the people who live out in the middle of nowhere are going to be like, pumps on, I don't know. We got a backup generator and the pump's been going. Water's fine.
It's kind of like in Gone with the Wind when all the guys are jonesing for war and somebody reminds them, actually, you know, the North, like they have all the industry, they're going to have us beat. It's kind of like that. All these revolutionaries, these left-wing revolutionaries who think that they're going to fare really well in a fight to the death with conservatives.
It's kind of insane when you like these people are just LARPing. It's live action role play.
Right.
Yep.
They bring fireworks.
Right.
It's like I watched a video of a guy lobbing fireworks at police, because they do it all the time. And I'm just thinking to myself, like, what is the real point? Okay, these things can cause damage. They can seriously hurt people, but it's like the lowest degree of explosive you could throw. So the question is, if they're going to throw explosives, why are they throwing fireworks? Because they don't really want to hurt anybody, but they want to have the explosion and simulate conflict because they're bored. They're children playing a game of revolutionaries and cops and revolutionaries.
Yep.
Right.
They wouldn't. It's like the Joker. If they caught the dog, they wouldn't know what to do with it.
Right.
I mean, if they caught the taxi, a dog chasing a car, if he actually got it, he wouldn't know what to do with it.
Right.
It's true.
They're not smart people. But you know what my prediction was? Did you guys see the video of the guy crashing the car into the dealership?
Yeah.
That guy's got no kids.
He doesn't?
I bet.
Oh.
I mean, if they come out and say, actually, he did, I'd be like, wow. But I bet he has no kids. This guy, Luigi, no kids. People with families don't do this stuff.
Yeah, you have to be optimistic if you have a family. That's the only option.
Unless you're like John Brown, you bring the kids with you.
I guess so.
That's what he was doing.
Yes, so.
But I mean, like, that's something that we say all the time here. That, like, people that are happy and have something to live for don't engage in revolutionary activities. That's why the left finds the people that are upset and angry at society, and they fill their heads full of leftist mumbo jumbo. And
Ooh. This is interesting. Miss Richie Blackmore says Luigi Mangione is from a family of super elite family in Baltimore that owns entire healthcare facilities. There's far more to the story than mainstream narrative. Look up Brian Thompson and insider trading. Could it be that he was actually angry about, like, Brian Thompson stole money or something from his family?
maybe.
I think here's the thing about the conspiracies. If any of this was true, he wouldn't have screamed it's an insult to the American people and lived experience. He would have said he stole from my family.
I really strongly feel like, it's just his head was filled with leftist garbage.
Yeah.
Dude, on November 8th,
And mental illness.
the SEC filed insider trading against Brian Thompson.
Really? Yeah, he was going to be investigated.
Well, that's interesting.
But even still, insider trading has nothing to do with the way that the health care or health insurance stuff operates to the average person. So if he was an insider trading, if he was doing insider trading, that's bad, like, in an abstract way, but it doesn't affect people getting care. You know what I mean?
I wonder if this guy saw that he was doing insider trading as like he's the problem. Had that state of mind, like he's just all about profit.
I couldn't speak to that.
I don't know that, like, the conspiracies make too many leaps. This is the problem. Are conspiracies real? Yes. Is this possibly one? Sure. But if you're going to, in your mind, map out a pie graph of probabilities, crazy, unhinged dude who read garbled nonsense on the internet is much, much larger of the pie graph than anything else.
Yeah.
Retribution,
Yeah.
retaliation.
The spark is less relevant than what bred that guy's state of mind.
Indeed. All right, let's go. The Y-Wing says leftists talking about how college graduates disproportionately voted for Harris. Turns out they also disproportionately shoot healthcare CEOs. Go figure. Haha. Yeah, we talked about it a little bit. People, it's millennials are plagued by credentialism, where they're like, my parents told me if I get a degree, it makes me better than you. And you're like, yeah, well, you can't get a job, you make no money, you're in debt, and you're a communist. So how's that working out for you? All right, SV Gatter says the guy 100% got caught intentionally because he could have easily disappeared. They had no idea who he was. It wanted the reason to be known.
Or he was going to do it again. Maybe he was planning on doing it again.
There's some rumors that he actually had other plans.
He had a new gun.
Something was
He
gonna
still
happen
had the
tomorrow.
fake IDs. Yeah.
Yeah, there was a plan for something tomorrow, apparently people were saying, and then they caught him. They did know. The police said that this guy wasn't even on their radar until someone...
Yeah.
They spot him at the McDonald's.
I feel like if considering the fact that he had money, if he really didn't want to get caught, he could have been on an airplane and on the way to Hawaii before his face got spread all over the news that same day.
And not with a bunch of fake IDs. Yeah, I agree. I think that he was planning on doing something again if this is the guy.
All right. Well, we got to do it. We got to do it. Where's the... Wait, I think I just lost the super chat.
Ruh-roh.
Oh, no.
You'll find it.
Yeah, I'll find it. Let me keep looking. It's from Based Jew. Here he goes. I'm sorry. We have to do this, ladies and gentlemen, because it's a birthday request. Based Jew says, it's my birthday. Ian, can we get a Roberto Jr. crow? All right. You know, I didn't want to do it because I'm like, that's going to be upsetting to a lot of people, but it is a birthday request, and I felt kind of bad. You only get one birthday a year. You know, when he super chatted in, I felt like he deserved that birthday present.
The strangled choke at the end.
Yeah.
was the,
Oh, every night I heard that 4 a.m., dude. I know him well.
That's why he died.
Love you, Roberto Jr., whatever you had going on in there,
He
man.
had a heart attack.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He had a
bad heart. I remember when he first started learning to crow, he would collapse.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because he had like a breathing issue.
You
I
push
guess.
it to the limit, dude.
This is
Squeezing
an old
his
chicken of yours?
It was Rooster. It was the son of Roberto. Roberto was the first rooster. Roberto is chilling at New Chicken City, and now there's RB3. He's the king. He's Roberto's grandson.
Oh, okay.
Roberto Jr.'s kid. Yeah.
little inbred bastard. Our Roberto Jr.
Roberto
His sister
Jr.
was his
not
mother or
inbred.
something.
No,
wasn't the case?
no. Those
Okay, good.
those are the first.
I
batch
take
of
it back,
chickens.
RJ.
Yeah, no. Roberto banged his daughters and had other daughter grandchildren.
Oh.
His granddaughter daughters.
Yeah, he Zeused it out.
But that's chickens. He Zeused it out. Yeah. Indeed he did. All right. Jimmy says, what are the chances Luigi gets rubbed out in a jail cell? Pretty good, I would say. Well, we know what happens in jails between these guys. You know what I'm saying? So, oh, you mean killed? Oh. Well, I guess maybe.
I'm not really sure why. It's not. I mean, I haven't heard anything about him being a kid diddler, and that's what tends to have you problems in jail.
I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen in this game. All right, let's go. Dr. Y says, Phil, UNH pays $8.50 a share dividend on 920.28 million shares for an annual shareholder payout of $7.5 billion. Holy crap. I got to buy me some of that.
I got to hear that. What was that about?
UNH.
Yeah, United Healthcare. That's the
Yeah,
company.
$8.50 a share, and shares are like 500 and something bucks, 600 bucks.
It's down to $8.50 a share now.
No.
No.
The
They
dividend.
pay. They pay a dividend.
Oh, wow.
Of $8.50 a share.
So they pay $8.50 per share that you own. If you buy 10,000 shares, you'll get $88 or $85,000 in dividends or whatever. So the total, what he was talking about, the total billions is how much the total dividend payout from the company is to all of their shareholders. So.
All right, Kieran the Meat Man says, Tim, you're wrong. There's a super simple way to hire family members for a fake job way above market rate. Be a politician. Hey, there we go. All right. Amalgamaniac Gaming says Brett Cooper just had her last comment section video today, and they're giving the show to her producer, Reagan, the God King, taking it another L. I don't see it that way. Everybody was spreading this rumor, and they're like, oh, what's going to happen? What's going to happen? And I'm like, guys, it's really obvious. Brett Cooper is a young conservative woman, and she got married recently. So obviously contract negotiations are going to come in. And my assumption is that, and I could be totally wrong, don't get me wrong, based on what you see, like they launched the show in the first place. They own the show. Brett is the principal talent. She probably said, I want to work less and make more. And they were like, nope. And she's like, I am going to spend time with my family, and I want to have a family. I just got married and be on my farm. And they were probably like, we need someone to host the show full time. And I think it's that simple. I think this is the pitfall of being a conservative company, hiring young female conservatives. They're going to want to go be women. You know what I mean? Like guys might be like, I'll work forever until my hands fall off. But women are going to say, I need family time. Guys are going to say that too. Don't get me wrong, but women more so than guys. So that's my assumption. I don't know. But I don't actually know why anyone cares, to be completely honest.
Amicable. Jeremy and Brett both made public statements about the amicable finale. Her contract ended.
Yeah, I had a contract for Fusion. It ended, whatever. You know what I mean? Like, of course. Everybody acts like everything's such a big deal. It's like so much drama, Like Candace left when her contract ended too, and everyone's like, oh, she's getting fired. I'm like, guys, her contract is over. Right. You know what I mean? Like, certainly that was not amicable. They don't seem to get along. Candace and Ben want to debate and all that stuff. But I think Brett, it's 3 years, right? Mm-hmm. And she's probably like, I want more money and I want to work less. I think that's really probably it. It's a big show. And they were probably like, yeah, we're not going to do it. We want someone who's going to work full time and host a show. And so looks like they got somebody already. All right, let's grab some more super chats. What is this here? Sovereign Fish says the tax code is designed to keep the working class working. There's a glass ceiling around 2 to 3 million that is extremely hard to get past. Once you break through, it's easier to take advantage of loopholes and make more money. Indeed, this is correct.
And then I hear, according to Kanye, there's a diamond ceiling up there at around, I don't know, 800 million. Maybe it's 80. Maybe it's 8 billion.
Is that what he said?
He just couldn't get through that ceiling.
Did he say that?
He's insinuated that there's a level of wealth you get to where you've got to make some deals to get to the next level.
Oh, yeah.
He was unwilling.
He's right, though. There's these levels aren't real. It's just that the amount of money, like to get to the level of wealth, say like of Elon Musk, you need a massive corporation. Massive, massive, massive. And his wealth is just tied in stock of the various companies.
I think Elon's stuck at that ceiling, too. They're not going to.
Elon's the richest man in the world.
Maybe on paper they like you to know that things that, but like the king of Jordan, the king of Saudi Arabia, these guys.
Of like being liquid. I don't think Elon is.
Vladimir Putin is arguably the richest man in the world because he has the wealth of the entire nation of Russia that he hoards and keeps. And there's estimates of like 700 billion that he controls.
I heard the Rothschild family was worth 330 trillion in like 2011. I wasn't able to confirm it because, of course,
I mean,
it doesn't mean anything, dude. To be honest,
the kingdom of Saudi Arabia, the king of Saudi Arabia owns Saudi Arabia. That means that he owns all the oil reserves in Saudi Arabia. Whoever, like, if
they have
not
armies.
What was that?
And they have armies.
Yeah, they are probably the richest people on earth.
All right, everybody, smash that like button, share the show with everyone you know, become a member over at timcast.com because that members-only show is coming up in about a minute. And guess what? For everybody who is a member, we now offer a 15% discount on all Cast Brew products. So when you sign up, you'll get a welcome email. And for everybody else, we'll just put it in the Discord so you know what you like. We'll have a code for you. I'll put it that way. So you can follow me on X and Instagram at Timcast. And again, smash the like button. Colonel Kurtz, you want to shout anything out?
Thank you. You can join me on my channel. I'll be crying over the debt some more. No, thank you.
What's your channel?
It's Colonel Kurtz 99 on YouTube, Twitter, and Instagram.
Word.
Follow me at Ian Crossland. This is the name behind me, as usual. And I think, is that Roberto Jr.? Is that just
That
some
is
random
not.
chicken?
That is a chicken portrait that I bought, and it was very expensive.
So worship it. It's just a chicken. Find yourself. Hey, be good to yourself tonight, too. See you later.
I am Phil That Remains on Twix. You can subscribe to my X page there. I am Phil That Remains Official on Instagram. The band is All That Remains. We have a new record coming out January 31st, 2025. The new record, Anti-Fragile, will be available. You can pre-order it. It is the pinned tweet on my X page. You can go to YouTube. You can go to Amazon Music, Apple Music, Spotify, Pandora, and Deezer to check out 4 videos from that new record. Forever Cold, Let You Go, No Tomorrow, and Divine. And don't forget, The Left Lane is for Crime.
We will see you all over at timcast.com in about a minute. Thanks for hanging out.